Guys, if you haven't watched the previous part yet, the link is available in the pinned comment. Go check it out. The protagonist states that he has more journeys ahead. After walking for a while, he finds an abandoned house to rest in. He sits down and checks his stats, noticing that with a little more effort, he'll reach Warrior Grade 3 when his combat stat hits 2000. He also realizes he's accumulated 4 lottery chances. Looking at the roulette wheel, he notices the prizes are marked with question marks. A system notification congratulates him for finding a special lottery event where all prizes have a chance to be multiplied. As the roulette spins, he waits anxiously to see what prize he'll win. When the wheel stops, it congratulates him on acquiring a large amount of heterocrystals. Xiu is impressed, saying he's obtained a lot of them, though he comments they're not very useful but can be sold for a good amount of money. He decides to keep spinning. When the roulette stops again, he obtains the legendary item Crimson Moon. Holding the item in his hand, he marvels at its soft, metallic texture, acknowledging that legendary weapons truly stand apart. He equips the glove and remarks that he only knows punching skills, but it will work well with his explosive fist, especially since his spear broke, and he's not accustomed to swords. This prize is exactly what he needs. He continues spinning, wanting to use all his chances. This time, he obtains a large number of skill cards. While he observes the stack of cards, he notices none are spear skills. Frustrated, he considers them useless, but notes that combining them might yield something valuable. The system notification shows skill card combinations and asks for confirmation. He agrees. The protagonist successfully combines bronze skill cards and obtains the silver spear skill card. He figures that even if he doesn't need a new skill, he can sell the combined cards for a good profit. While reviewing the new skill, he wonders what kind of ability it is, deciding to use the combination anyway. Another notification congratulates him on combining the skill cards, granting several attack items. Xiu becomes annoyed, accusing the system of mocking him with insincere congratulations for what he considers a failure. Grumbling, he takes the cards in hand and realizes he still has 6 skill cards left, giving him 2 more attempts. Clasping his hands together, he pleads for a gold tier skill. The system congratulates him again, but immediately informs him that the combination failed. Furious, he calls the system garbage and demands his silver tier skill back, kneeling and imploring it. The system asks if he wants to combine again. He accepts. This time, he notices it's a gold tier skill card and also a spear skill. Overjoyed, he states that even though he can't learn it yet as a grade 2 warrior, it won't stop him for long. Soon, he'll become a grade 3 warrior. He commands the system to spin again, expecting a surprise. He wins a quick upgrade pack too, and the system asks if he wants to use it now. Disappointed with the prize, he curses the system multiple times, but reluctantly equips the pack for the 50 bonus points it provides. Frustrated by the weight of the equipment, he sighs and remarks that there's still a long road ahead. As he walks, a voice cries out about a grade 2 silver-clawed bear. The enormous bear is chasing a boy who runs desperately. The protagonist steps forward and unleashes his explosive fist on the bear, causing a massive explosion. He notices the glove amplifies the power of his skill and successfully defeats the grade 2 evolved beast. The boy introduces himself as Liang and thanks the protagonist for saving his life. Xiu introduces himself and continues walking. Liang catches up and asks if he's also heading to Black Sea City. Observing that Xiu took down a grade 2 beast with one punch, Liang wonders why his aura is only that of a potential warrior. The protagonist replies that he is indeed heading there, planning to take the exam to obtain his warrior license. A woman approaches to ask if the boy is okay. Liang responds that he's tired because he had to fight off evolved beasts. Otherwise, he would have been killed a long time ago. He points to Lin, saying he was lucky that he showed up and saved his life, then mentions that he's also heading to Black Sea City to take the qualification exam. Liang suggests they all travel together since their destination is the same. Xiu agrees. The boy then adds that they actually have a 5th member they met on the road, though her behavior is a little strange. He points to a girl in a tree and introduces her as the Princess in Black, saying her name is Howling. The girl repeats her name and asks how she's doing, introducing herself to Lin. Howling then asks Lin if he's willing to become her disciple. Xiu is confused by the sudden offer, considering they've just met, and she's already inviting him to be her disciple. Liang whispers to him that she said the same thing when they first met and that she's asked everyone the same question. The protagonist apologizes, stating that he's not interested in accepting someone he just met as his teacher. She replies that he'll regret it. Xiu thinks she's eccentric. As they walk, they come across numerous bones scattered on the ground. Liang asks why there are so many human bones. Xiu explains that they're the remains of humans attacked by grade 2 man-devouring birds, a species of carnivorous birds that hunt in groups. A boy questions how Xiu knows this and suggests it could be the work of a carnivorous beast. The girl calls him an idiot and points out the bite marks on the skulls left by the birds. The boy, irritated at being called an idiot, warns her not to think he won't hit her just because she looks young. Howling ignores him, instead praising Xiu. The boy, angrier, says he's talking to her. At that moment, they spot a bird flying toward them. The boy throws his sword, killing the bird and claiming it's weak. Lin counters, saying that's not true. The real danger is just beginning. A flock of birds approaches them. The protagonist notices and says they're coming, closing his fist and using his ability, emitting an extremely powerful aura. The girl observes and comments on how impressive his abilities are, saying he's now more worthy of becoming her disciple. Xiu tells her to stop asking people to become her disciples, stating that if she wants a disciple, she must prove her worth first. Howling asks if eliminating all the birds would make him agree to be her disciple. She then steps toward the birds, saying she'll show her skill. Lin tries to stop her, but she ignores him and continues attacking with her abilities. The protagonist notices her strong killing intent and wonders how someone like her can have such a powerful aura. Howling keeps fighting and successfully defeats all the birds. She stands her ground and asks if Lin is willing to become her disciple now. Liang is amazed by her strength, while Lin thinks she's extremely powerful. The boy approaches and comments on how easily she cut the birds in half, asking where she bought her twin blades. The girl replies that they're not for sale and that her mother forged them. Liang praises her mother's skill, while Xiu observes and suspects the others don't realize the blades aren't special. It was her ability that cut through the birds so easily. A red-haired girl notices and asks where the heterocrystals are. Howling, holding a bag, asks if she's referring to the ones she collected. The protagonist is stunned, wondering how she managed to gather all the heterocrystals while taking down the birds without anyone noticing. The girl asks if he wants them. Xiu questions whether she's really going to give them to him, and she confirms, saying he can take them as a gift from his new teacher. Lin refuses politely, saying he didn't agree to be her disciple, while pondering why she's so desperate to become someone's master. He reflects that with that amount of heterocrystals, she could sell them and earn a lot of money. Howling tells him to forget it, stating that she won't give them to anyone else either because she's going to absorb them herself. She then begins absorbing them with a pink aura. The protagonist observes, indignantly wondering if she has already reached such a frightening level of cultivation technique, as she absorbed dozens of heterocrystals so quickly. The two boys lament tearfully, saying that with all those heterocrystals, she could at least consider making them her disciples and giving them everything. Shortly after, they roast meat on skewers. Xiu watches and criticizes, saying it's a terrible way to eat, asking if it's her first time eating grilled meat. The boys tell her not to rush, as there's still plenty of food. Lin asks if she's also from Starflare City. With her mouth full, she responds that she isn't. He tries analyzing her data, wondering if she's a grade 4 warrior, as the system can't measure her strength. He reflects that her power might be comparable to Tang's. Suddenly, Howling feels strange, kneels down, and asks why she suddenly feels so weak. The protagonist asks what's wrong, questioning if she ate too much and has a stomachache. Alarmed, he also feels a sudden weakness, kneeling down and asking what's happening, wondering if they are responsible. The girl questions if the meat was drugged. A group approaches, armed with swords and menacing eyes, explaining it's not poison but something to weaken them, as they're after money, not their lives. Jiang, with a sinister expression, explains they added a few drops of iserlin to the skewers, a drug that can temporarily strip grade 1 warriors of all their strength. Xiu comments that while the drug is weak and only works on warriors below grade 2, it's a rare and expensive item found only on the black market. He notes that the group must be placing a big bet. Liang remarks that they wouldn't risk it for a lesser prize, adding that they always target weak yet rich individuals like them and make a fortune every time. One of the attackers taps Lin's chin, commenting on how unique his gloves appear. Eyeing his backpack, the man notes it also seems packed with valuable items. Turning to Howling, he strokes her face and demands her twin blades and backpack, promising to leave her alone afterward. The protagonist reacts, telling him to stop and pointing out that the aroma of the barbecue seems to have attracted an uninvited guest. Looking back, they see something with glowing red eyes, a blood-eyed wolf. The wolf approaches and attacks one of the group members. Liang remarks on the bad timing. The group tries to fight the wolf with swords and abilities, causing an explosion, but the wolf dodges and counterattacks. Liang observes its agility and suggests they team up to fight it. However, he starts panting, realizing they stand no chance. Thinking quickly, he comes up with an idea and begins to run. The wolf chases him, but he shouts at it to go after the others. Liang approaches the protagonist, apologizing for using him as bait and stating that once the wolf finishes him off, they'll take his equipment and bags. As the wolf gets closer, Xiu stands up, smiling, and attacks it. He notes that, as expected of an evolved beast, the wolf is incredibly resilient, with its head still intact after his explosive fist. One of the boys questions why Xiu wasn't affected by the drug. Xiu explains that it only affects grade 1 warriors and that he is grade 2. Liang argues that if he were grade 2, he should have obtained his license long ago, and asks why he's heading to Black Sea City. The protagonist responds by asking if he'd believe that his family is too poor to have gone earlier. At that moment, the wolf attempts to attack him from behind, but Xiu reacts faster and blocks it. Liang questions how his family can be poor when his gloves can block the wolf's sharp claws. Xiu counters the beast, thinking the weights on him are hindering his full strength. He tears off his vest, freeing himself. Lin comments that he'll be taken down in front of her if he doesn't start helping. Howling laughs, claiming she knew this wasn't his true strength and, since he's her disciple, she'll assist him. Liang watches and asks why she seems unaffected, wondering if she's also a grade 2 warrior. The girl stands up and explains that they seem mistaken. She's not heading to Black Sea City to take the exam, but as an examiner. Xiu can't believe it. The wolf spots them again and approaches. Howling comments that the beast is still acting arrogantly and rushes toward it, using her abilities. She notes how fast it is. The protagonist asks why she attacked its tail instead of aiming for its neck. The girl replies that it was just a demonstration and tells him to watch closely. She then uses her skills Silver Difference and Autumn's Chill, causing a massive explosion. Lin watches in awe, noticing how she split her energy source between her twin blades and legs in an instant, enhancing both her speed and the power of her blades. He wonders if source energy can really be used that way. Howling declares that it's time to settle the score. Terrified, the boys begin to make excuses. Liang claims they're only after treasures and never hurt anyone, begging for forgiveness and proposing to turn over a new leaf. The girl observes him for a moment before eliminating Liang with her blade. His companions, horrified, plead for their lives on their knees. Howling says she has no intention of eliminating them, but explains that Liang repaid kindness with hostility. Her disciples saved their lives, but Liang tried to lure the beast toward him with malicious intent. She orders the two to leave and never appear before her again. Without hesitation, they run off. Xiu looks at Liang's lifeless body and sighs, saying it's a shame. The girl approaches and states that since Liang wanted to kill him, there's no reason to show mercy to assassins. Lin retorts, saying he wasn't lamenting Liang's death, but rather regretting not being the one to eliminate him, thinking she stole his experience points. Howling announces that now it's just the two of them, so it's time for training. The protagonist quips that it's too late for tea. The girl slaps him and orders him to shut up, reminding him that she's his master and deserves respect. Xiu replies that he never agreed to be her disciple. Howling asks if he has any skill that suppresses cultivation, saying she feels he's stronger than he lets on. Lin denies it, stating he's always been at this level. She tells him to forget it if he doesn't want to share, but asks if he has any questions for her. The protagonist naturally asks if she's a grade 3 warrior, if she's really an examiner for Black Sea City, and how old she is. The girl says it's a lot of questions, but confirms she's a grade 3 warrior and an examiner, though she warns him he won't get special treatment during the license exam. As for her age, she says it's a secret, and that he shouldn't ask such things. However, she adds that if he becomes her disciple, she'll teach him all her skills during their journey to Black Sea City, ensuring he passes the warrior license exam without issue. He responds that he's already a grade 2 warrior and questions why he wouldn't pass. The girl asks if he has a master. He says no. She then asks if he thinks she's stronger. He responds that he believes they're about equal. Howling questions if he doubts her power and proposes a match. If she wins, he'll become her disciple. She promises not to use weapons and asks if he dares accept the challenge, pointing at him. Xiu accepts, thinking it's a good opportunity to teach her a lesson. The girl gets excited and calls for the fight to begin. Lin activates his explosive fist and quickly approaches her. Howling closes her fist, ready, waiting for him. The protagonist wonders what she's doing, thinking she intends to face his explosive punch head-on, risking pulverizing her hand. Their fists collide, releasing a massive aura around them. Xiu feels her strength, but suddenly, he's sent flying. Howling tries to locate him. The impact throws him to the ground, landing against a rock. The girl approaches and asks if he's satisfied now. He is baffled, unable to comprehend how she managed to do that. Howling asks if he wants to learn and says she can teach him, but first, she wants him to call her master. Lin observes and thinks that, despite her young age, she clearly has some skill, as she truly defeated his explosive fist. Deciding to learn her abilities first, he reluctantly calls her master. The girl pretends not to hear, claiming his voice was too low. The protagonist warns her not to push her luck. Howling laughs, and he reflects that no matter how he looks at her, she never seems like an expert. The girl says she'll stop teasing him and explains why his strike was weaker than hers. She points out that he's using his source energy inefficiently, although he doesn't fully understand. Howling asks him to pay close attention. She uses her ability on a stone, causing cracks, and explains that she merely infused a small amount of source energy into it. This, she says, increases the stone's hardness by up to 0.5 times, but in the end, it's still just a stone and will break upon impact. Then she demonstrates what happens if, instead of merely infusing the stone, she also envelops it with source energy. She throws the stone, which creates a significant impact, but remains intact. Lin asks if maximizing the effect wouldn't require infusing the energy directly into the weapon. The girl explains that cultivation techniques allow warriors to absorb energy from the universe and store it within their bodies. Some of this energy transforms their muscles, organs, and bones, while the rest is stored as source energy. When a warrior infuses their weapon with source energy, it becomes stronger and sharper, but despite its increased durability, it cannot transcend its material limits. Xu comments that he doesn't notice any significant change in her sword, only a faint layer of source energy. Howling instructs him to focus his source energy in his eyes and look again. He closes his eyes, concentrates, and then opens them. The girl explains that by channeling energy into his eyes, he can see the source energy of others. What he saw before with his bare eyes was just a weak layer. She describes the energies and their colors, explaining that observing an opponent's source energy can help deduce their strength. She notes that her sword, forged by her mother from common materials, would sell for 10 to 20,000 alliance credits on the market. However, when coated with source energy, the sword can rival those worth hundreds of thousands. She warns, though, that simply infusing energy into a weapon makes it prone to breaking, and then demonstrates the technique again. The protagonist asks why warriors need high-quality weapons if this is true. Howling explains that he misunderstood. It's not just about coating the weapon with source energy, but achieving a balance between coating and infusion. Each weapon has its own quality, and lower-grade weapons suffer internal damage from the external energy coating and shock waves of each strike. Xu then remarks that she previously mentioned suppressing her level to that of a Grade 1 warrior, but infusion and coating of source energy aren't things a Grade 1 warrior can do. He asks if that's correct. The girl coughs and admits he's right. Lin, irritated, accuses her of cheating and demands that the bet be voided. Howling retorts that he already called her master, and that can't be undone, assuring him she won't look down on him as her disciple. She hands him her sword and asks him to try coating it with his source energy. The protagonist takes the sword, examines it, and tries to coat it. Breathing heavily, he comments that he can only cover a small part of the weapon and is already exhausted, admitting he never imagined coating a weapon with source energy would be as difficult as infusing it. The girl tells him he won't master it so easily, as even for a Grade 3 warrior, coating a weapon evenly is challenging. However, she thinks to herself that he managed to cover a fifth of the sword on his first attempt, considering him a genius. Lin reflects that if even Grade 3 warriors find this difficult, it's no wonder Tang didn't seem to use this technique when he fought him. Holding the sword, he promises to keep trying and master the technique no matter what. Elsewhere, Xu is lying down with the girl on top of him. He opens his eyes, confused. Howling is startled to see him waking up. Xu moves away and asks what she was trying to do and if she was attempting to wake him. The girl explains that she noticed his clothes repaired themselves automatically and became curious, discovering that he was wearing weights underneath. She praises his effort, stating that even with weights, he performed well. She announces that today's training will begin now, saying that since he's using weights, the method will be perfect. He must reach the top of a hill before sunset. Xu protests, pointing out that the map shows the area is full of cliffs, over 100 kilometers away, and asks if she's trying to eliminate him. Howling replies that she won't make him run alone. She'll accompany him. Lin questions how that's fair, since he's wearing weights. As he looks behind him, he notices a flock of birds approaching and remarks that they're the same as yesterday. He grabs his sword and starts attacking them, using his source energy. The girl warns him not to stop and says she'll deal with the birds while running. The birds keep closing in, and she informs him that for the next 6 miles, he'll have to handle them while running. The birds head toward Xu, but he cuts them in half. Howling explains that this is a test of speed, precision, and reaction, and he must strike the birds where the heterocrystals are located and extract them. Lin questions if he really has to kill the birds, open the part with the heterocrystal, and extract everything while running, saying it's impossible. He warns her to be careful. The girl, unfazed, eliminates multiple birds simultaneously, retrieves the crystals, and asks who said it was impossible. She explains that as long as speed, precision, and reaction are aligned, it's easy, showing the crystal in her hand. A bird approaches Zhu, and although he cuts it in half, he shatters the crystal. As more birds come closer, he declares that he doesn't think he can hit the correct spot. Exhausted, he sits down and asks to rest, questioning if he's at least covered 30 miles. Howling replies they'll take a 10-minute break. The protagonist asks why the birds are targeting only him. The girl explains it's simple. While he was sleeping, she rubbed a bit of scent on his clothes, which attracts the birds. Zhu, shocked, says that can't be true and notes that there is indeed a strange smell. Howling says it's for his own good and declares that the break is over. He has to run to the mountain's summit without stopping. Lin indignantly complains that only 2 minutes have passed, but when the sword points toward him, his attitude shifts. With the blade aimed at him, the girl asserts that 10 minutes have passed and that he'd better start running unless he wants to be cut down. The protagonist gets up and reluctantly agrees, thinking that after running all morning, his progress has improved, and at this rate, he'll complete his growth mission before reaching Black Sea City. He notices the birds approaching again and reflects that, while the girl's methods are extreme, they're undeniably effective. He resumes attacking the birds, collecting intact crystals, and realizes that his speed and precision are improving. Later, as his breathing becomes labored, he comments that he finally made it. Sitting on the ground, he reflects that, with weights all over his body, and while eliminating monsters along the way, he managed to cover a full 60 miles. His master asks if he's already reached his limit, boasting that in the past, she could run more than 600 kilometers. She points to a clearing ahead and suggests they rest there for the night. However, they notice something approaching. Zhu grows desperate. The girl draws her combat tool and attacks. Lin doesn't understand what's happening. Howling explains that they've been followed since 5 a.m. and asks if their pursuers are finally going to make a move. 2 young men approach and admit they've been waiting for the boy to get tired before attacking him. The protagonist reflects that he truly hadn't noticed they were concealing their presence and following him for so long, and that if it weren't for his master, he would have been eliminated. The girl reveals that the 2 men are the Yang brothers, Yang and Luo, known for taking out warriors and claiming territories in the mountains near the city. She asks if she's correct, and mentions that their wanted posters distributed by the Alliance offer rewards of 50 million credits. One of the men asks if she knows who they are, and upon realizing she does, demands she hand over her belongings in silence. Using his analytical eye, Lin examines their data and discovers they're grade 4 warriors. Realizing it will be difficult to face them, the girl instructs her disciple to watch carefully, as she'll demonstrate how to use source energy to defeat them. Xiu notices her source energy is far more intense than that of her opponents. Luo charges toward her, but Howling doesn't back down. She counters, striking him and sending him flying. Yang moves in to attack her, but she parries and strikes his arm, asking if that's all he's got. Luo shouts to his brother, suggesting they use their combined skill. The two rush together, declaring that when united, their power rivals that of grade 5 warriors. Luo leaps into the air while Yang readies his weapon. Together, they unleash their combined skill, emitting an incredible aura. From above, Luo launches several weapons in their direction. Shu observes and comments that this must be the combined skill, a powerful technique that requires more than one person and acknowledges its impressive force. Howling dismisses it as a mere parlor trick. She creates a shield bubble to defend herself. Lin is impressed by her agility and power, wondering if the rumors he heard were true, that some high-level warriors can condense their bodies after reaching a certain level, allowing them to appear youthful. He ponders if she could actually be an old woman. Yang, confused, asks what's happening, and Luo remarks that this road to Black Sea City shouldn't be filled with rookies taking the license exam. Howling declares it's her turn now. She charges to attack. The 2 men prepare to defend themselves, but Howling uses source energy to strike them with a bar, sending them flying. The protagonist, indignant, questions if this is the strength of a grade 6 warrior facing 2 grade 4 warriors. Approaching the 2 fallen men, he sees they're still alive and considers that if he eliminates them now, he could gain experience. He steps forward with his sword and finishes them off. Howling watches and asks if he really has this kind of hobby. Xiu wonders why no notification has appeared, questioning if the experience won't be counted. Then, notifications arrive informing him he eliminated the 2 and earned over 3 million experience points, increasing his grade and granting him 16 power points. He smiles, thrilled. The girl asks why he's grinning like an idiot and if his brain has cooled down from all the running. Lin replies that he's fine and asks if, when they encounter more high-level warriors, she could avoid finishing them off, leaving them near defeat so he can take them out. Howling scoffs, saying that'll only happen in his dreams, and that if he wants experience, he should do the work himself. She adds that it was pure coincidence they encountered these two wanted criminals, allowing her to make some pocket money. She asks how shameless he can be to compete for such a small sum. Shu thinks to himself that she assumes he's after the reward, but the experience points are far more valuable to him. Then, the system sends a notification indicating a bug he doesn't understand. The notification explains that since he caused less than 40% of the damage against high-level warriors, his experience points will be reduced by 10%. Furious, he exclaims that it's not his fault. Another notification arrives, explaining that since he discovered the bug, he has 3 chances to draw a prize. Relieved, he comments that the system isn't entirely heartless. The girl touches his face and asks if he's really okay. He laughs and assures her he is. Howling tells him they need to continue running, as their goal is to reach Black Sea City by noon tomorrow. Shu, not at all pleased, asks if there will be even more running. They roast meat on skewers. Shu asks why she's eating as if she's never tasted this kind of meat before, telling her to take it easy since no one's going to steal her food. The girl replies that he shouldn't speak to his master like that, adding that if he has enough energy to talk, it means his training isn't intense enough. She warns that they'll resume training after dinner. Lin, indignant, asks if there will be more training. She confirms, stating that they'll arrive at Black Sea City tomorrow, and if he doesn't pass the exam, why not take advantage of the time to train? He responds that he's a grade 2 warrior and can't possibly fail. He adds that since she's an examiner, he hopes she wouldn't sabotage someone over something trivial like makeup. Howling tells him not to overthink it, saying she's not interested in such things, and orders him to stop eating and start training. The training focuses on controlling source energy. She instructs him to begin by coating his sword with energy. After observing his efforts, she comments that it's not bad, and then asks him to envelop his body with source energy. Observing again, she says it's pretty decent. Next, she asks him to let her test it with her fist. She punches him, sending him flying into a tree with an explosion. Shu asks why she suddenly hit him, and if she's trying to kill him. The girl responds by asking if he didn't notice his defense had improved. Realizing this now, Lin remarks that her punch was strong and that he'd normally be injured, but he only feels pain around his stomach. Howling explains that his source energy is still weak, but as it strengthens, his defense will also improve when he coats his body. He asks what she plans to do next. She responds that tonight's training will involve taking hits to build resilience. The protagonist is horrified. Without hesitation, the girl punches him in the face. Shu pleads for her to go easy on him, but she continues hitting him relentlessly. After the beating, Lin complains, asking why they agreed not to hit his face and how he'll recognize people with a swollen face. She replies it was an accident and promises to compensate him. The protagonist asks how, saying he hopes it's with a bank transfer. The girl punches him again and orders him to start training, telling him to run to Black Sea City before nightfall. She urges him to run and stop complaining, giving him a kick to get him moving. As he runs, he asks why she hit him again, questioning if she's addicted to it. Howling yells at him to run faster, warning that if she catches him, she won't be gentle. Elsewhere, an old man sits in a chair, commenting that Mubai was clever, but was carelessly defeated by a high school student. Another man remarks that the boy couldn't have done it alone and suspects someone is helping him from the shadows, possibly someone connected to the federal soldiers, perhaps with a star medal. The old man notes that someone once considered weak has improved so much in such a short time, becoming a grade 2 warrior and even earning a star medal. He states it's no simple situation and that the Tang family can't suffer any more losses. He reveals that the boy is heading to Black Sea City to obtain his warrior license and that he's already asked some old acquaintances to eliminate him. In Black Sea City, Shu and Howling arrive at a treasure shop. Howling suggests they take a look around, but Shu asks her not to call him disciple in public. The girl, teasing, starts repeating disciple over and over. He tells her to be quiet. Upon entering, the attendant greets them, saying the shop has skill cards, heterocrystals, weapons, and combat suits, and asks what they're looking for. The girl replies that she'll choose some battle cards for him. While browsing, she asks why there are only silver skill cards and whether the shop has any diamond cards. The attendant responds that such high-level skills likely can't be found anywhere in Black Sea City. Other customers in the store comment that they've never seen a diamond card in their lives unless it belonged to someone at grade 6 or higher, and that such a card is the kind of treasure families keep as heirlooms. Howling tells Yu to forget about it and suggests he examine the silver cards to see which ones suit him. A few guys in the store remark that she's very beautiful and that if they were in Xu's place, they'd gladly be her disciples too. Xu explains that his main weapon is the spear, and that knife and sword skills don't suit him. The girl reminds him that he's always carried a sword and asks where his spear is. Lin responds that it was destroyed during a fight in his city, and that, once he gets his license, He plans to order a new one online. His master reassures him and, raising her hand, requests several items, including a staff. The attendant agrees and starts packing the items, informing them that the total for 8 silver skill cards is 2.56 million alliance credits. Howling hands the cards to him, saying it's a welcome gift. The protagonist notices the skills include Tiger Force Punch, Chain Kicks, Flaming Claw, and 5 spear skills. He remarks that it feels like too much, and that these skills seem better than the ones he already knows. Howling says she's never looked at spear skills before and picked them randomly, but if he doesn't like them, he can sell them. As they leave the store, she comments that none of the weapons caught her eye. She promises that once he gets a new spear, she'll prepare a big gift for him. The guys in the shop, impressed, comment on how she gave away skill cards worth over 2 million credits and wish they had a generous master like her. Xiu, lost in thought, wonders what kind of backstory she has, noting that she reserved 2 rooms costing over 150,000 credits each. He jokes to himself that if he keeps following her, he might be able to retire early, and wonders how old she really is. Sitting on the floor, he decides to learn 3 of the martial skills while using the others for combinations since they were free. Looking at Silver Difference, Chain Kicks, and Flaming Claw, he reflects on how these skills could complement each other. He plans to combine his Explosive Fist with Tiger Force Punch to enhance its destructive power, or switch to Flaming Claw mid-attack to surprise the enemy, potentially destroying an opponent's arm in one strike. Hearing someone at the door, he notes that it's already late, and wonders who it could be. Walking to the door, he thinks it might be his master coming to train with him, and jokes to himself about a man and a woman alone in a room in the middle of the night. He asks who's there, and a voice replies that his friend ordered him dinner. He thinks to himself how thoughtful she is, realizing he's starting to get hungry after all the training. Opening the door, he starts to thank the visitor, but suddenly, the waiter attempts to attack him with a sword. The protagonist quickly dodges the attack. Blocking the attack, Zhu pushes the table away with a powerful strike. Another opponent rushes at him. The protagonist tries to kick him, but the smaller attacker dodges and attempts to strike Zhu from behind. Lin blocks the attack, surprising the smaller man, who wonders how a rank 2 martial artist has such incredible defense. Then, Zhu counters with the silver martial skill Flaming Claw, burning the man's arm with flames. Unsure of what to do, the attacker realizes that the information he received was incorrect. Before he can react further, Zhu hits him with explosive crack, sending him flying and eliminating him. The waiter watches in shock, asking how this is possible, and wonders why the intel claimed Zhu was proficient only with spears. Zhu notices his presence. The waiter panics as Lin charges at him, using Charged Strike, Tiger Punch. Desperate, the waiter yells, questioning what kind of punch creates such a powerful gust of wind that it pushes him back. He screams for Zhu to stop, claiming he's from the Hua Temple and that Zhu cannot eliminate him. Without hesitation, Zhu lands his punch, creating an explosive impact that eliminates the waiter. Looking at the body, Zhu remarks that the Hua Temple must indeed be powerful, but if he hadn't concealed his strength to make them lower their guard, he wouldn't have defeated them so easily. He wonders why the 2 were sent to eliminate him and suspects the Tang family might be behind it. Howling observes and praises him for being so quick, as expected of her disciple. She notes that he was able to strengthen himself in an instant, making it impossible for a dagger to pierce him, and that he's greatly benefited from their recent training. The protagonist asks when she arrived. She replies that it was when the attacker tried to push him back with the dagger. Xiu, annoyed, asks what kind of master she is, saying she sat there eating popcorn while 2 people tried to kill her disciple. Howling responds that she trusts her disciple. Xiu sighs, deciding not to argue further, and asks what to do with the bodies. She tells him to gather their belongings, as she'll request another room at the reception. Walking away, she reassures him not to worry, as someone will clean up the mess. The next day at the Martial Arts League, the receptionist announces that the martial artist license exam will begin at 9 a.m., and that all registered participants must submit their test certifications there before heading to the northern courtyard for the test. Howling tells Yu to get in line, as she'll see him later in the examiner's room, wishing him good luck. A loud voice commands everyone to move out of the way. People look around and ask who the arrogant man is. Another person advises them to stay quiet and not provoke him. A large man approaches Xu and asks if he's deaf, since he's already told him to get out of the way. Xu asks what the rush is and tells him to join the line. The man, irritated, questions why he always encounters trash, like Xu every year, sighing that it seems he'll qualify again but implying it doesn't matter if he eliminates idiots like Xu. Onlookers murmur, saying the boy is messing with Chu. The large man steps closer, warning that Xu is asking for trouble. Lin counters with his explosive fist. The 2 clash fist to fist, but Xu remains firm, injuring Chu's arm and knocking him down. Xu remarks that Chu won't be getting his license this year and asks if anyone else wants to cut the line. A group of men quickly steps back, claiming they wouldn't dare and that they're all respectable citizens who wouldn't think of doing such a thing. The examiners begin evaluating the participants' battle strengths. Xu's name is called. He walks to the testing area, noting that the average battle strength of the participants is around 800, barely reaching the level of a rank 1 martial artist. He's unsure if the device will detect his true power with his camouflage active. The system analyzes him, and the result displays a battle strength of 890. He's relieved, thinking it's good that it didn't exceed 1500. Otherwise, he'd be labeled a rank 2 martial artist, and people would mock him for lacking martial skills. The crowd looks at him, surprised that someone so young is so strong. The examiners instruct all martial artists participating in the exam to proceed with the strength test at the designated area. An examiner asks the group to form a line for the test. Lin observes his master and realizes she really is an examiner, thinking she was only joking before. The examiner tells a boy that a single punch must reach 1,000 kilograms to pass. The boy asks if she's really an examiner. She asks if there's a problem. A bully doubts her ability, saying even his own punch doesn't reach 1,000 kilograms. The crowd laughs, mocking her and asking why they'd let a child be an examiner. Healing calmly says it's fine and, with a simple arm movement, measures her strength. She tells them to open their eyes and watch closely. The device shows her strength at 99,999 kilograms. Everyone is stunned, unable to believe it. One man claims the device must be malfunctioning and asks to try it himself. He steps forward, and the examiner measures his strength at 895 kilograms, confirming the device is working correctly and dismissing him. The man accuses her of tampering with the device. She responds that his power simply isn't enough and tells him to leave. The man begins spouting insults and attempts to attack her, but with no effort she blocks him and twists his arm. He falls to his knees, screaming in pain. Healing gives him 30 seconds to leave, warning that otherwise, he'll never leave. The man quickly apologizes and retreats. She asks if anyone else wants to try and calls the next person forward, noticing it's her disciple. Xu mutters under his breath about how many times he's told her not to call him disciple in public. She cheerfully responds, "Of course," and calls him disciple again. The protagonist asks if she's really an examiner. Healing assures him she is, explaining that she's a 3-star member of the Martial Arts League and is frequently invited to oversee exams. Lin is surprised, thinking about the 5 levels of membership in the league. He recalls that 5-star members are nearly at the top of the organization. 4-star members are state leaders or martial artists with great contributions, and 3-star members are already impressive. The examiner tells him to take his test. When Xu punches, his strength measures 1,999 kilograms. The crowd murmurs, commenting on the impressive number and noting that he must indeed be her disciple. Healing remarks that it's still lacking, reminding him that there's also a 100-meter sprint and a 50-kilometer endurance test to complete. She orders him not to embarrass her and to get on with it. At the reception hall of the Martial Arts League, a staff member congratulates him on becoming a member of the league, handing him his martial artist card and explaining that his identification number is printed on the back, with the initial password being the last 6 digits of his ID. She explains that with this card, he can access the league's website, request information, buy weapons, or take on various tasks. Lin thanks her. Healing approaches and asks how it feels to have a martial artist license. She pulls him aside, explaining that her work as an examiner is done and that she's received information about a new mission from the Martial Arts League, meaning she won't be able to train him until she returns. Xu thinks to himself that he's finally free of her. His master questions his attitude, asking if he won't do anything to stop her. Sarcastically, the protagonist kneels and begs her not to leave, saying he wants her to keep training him. Healing smacks him, accusing him of insincerity, and asks where he's headed now. Xu responds that he's going to the path of death, as he's been accepted into the Sanctuary Academy and must cross the path to reach it. His master warns that at his level it's dangerous, but if he's been admitted, he must go. She then announces that, as promised, she's giving him a great gift for earning his martial artist license, a spear. Lin, surprised, asks where she got it. She explains that she just received it from the branch owner of the league, adding that while he can enhance weapons with source energy to make them stronger, using high-level weapons will significantly increase his combat effectiveness. The protagonist examines it and asks if it's truly a high-level weapon. She explains that the spear is called Black On and was left by the spearmaster Barry. Xu looks at her, then at the spear again, and asks if this spearmaster might be the leader of the Black Sea Martial Artists Union. She responds no. Lin turns around and says he knows. She must be Barry's daughter, and the spear must have been given to the affiliate leader of the Martial Artist Union in Black Sea City. Howling asks why he doesn't become a novelist, praising his incredible imagination, and questions how she could be Barry's child, saying she isn't that old. The protagonist then suggests she must be his granddaughter. She tells him to shut up and clarifies they just share the same last name, ordering him to try out the spear quickly. Xiu picks up the spear and notes how heavy it is, asking about its weight. Howling answers that it weighs 500 kilograms. He remarks it's no wonder it's so hard to lift, observing that it's made from black steel meteorite stone. She explains that the only spear in the world made of black steel meteorite stone is this one. Lin recalls that the meteorite fell 100 years ago, destroying an entire city, which now only has zombies and mutant beasts, so fortunately, no one was hurt. He adds that after the impact, the crater was as large as a massive boulder. Some people brought the meteorite back, used precision hammers to forge it, and created 12 different weapons. These weapons aren't just the sharpest, but also the most durable in the world. He asks if something so precious is really being given to him. She replies, of course, and assures him she only promises what she can deliver. She mentions that she has been assigned another mission, and wonders if they'll part ways here. As she walks away, she says goodbye and tells him to visit Skyspace City if he has the chance. The protagonist asks about Skyspace City. She explains it's the largest city in the world, built using floating technology that makes the entire city levitate. She adds that only martial artists of rank 5 or higher, or people with significant achievements in technology, can enter. Lin muses that she's clearly a wealthy woman, and jokes that maybe he should consider following her. It might be worth working hard for fewer years. Elsewhere, a voice says, "So much incompetence. 2 rank 2 martial artists couldn't even eliminate a rank 1 martial artist." A kneeling subordinate replies that the boy is incredibly strong and can't possibly be just a rank 1 martial artist. The man smashes something to the ground, shattering it, and says the boy has some connection to the Tang family, a family he had hoped to repay a favor to, but the child dared to eliminate his people. In another location, an announcement states that the train to Phoenix has departed and that those who missed it should visit the service desk to change trains or request a refund. The protagonist reaches the receptionist and asks if the train has already left and mentions there were supposed to be 3 trains a day. The receptionist explains that the path of death is very dangerous, with few travelers, and that the low operational profits led to a reduction from 3 daily trains to 1. Xiu buys a ticket for the following morning's train, thanks her, and walks away. He notes that since the train is tomorrow, he should return to the Marshall Hotel to spend the night there, even though it's expensive, because it's comfortable. As he walks, he wonders if those men are still tracking him and jokes that maybe the Temple of Transformation sent more people for him to gain experience again. Then, he starts running. A group comments on the number of people running at night. Xiu replies that he's been followed since the train station, wondering aloud if they aren't tired yet. He observes that they're all rank 2 martial artists, except for one rank 3, indicating they aren't underestimating him. A system notification arrives, informing him that the rapid growth system progression is complete, and he feels pleased. Using his analyzing eye, he identifies names and ranks. Zheng orders his team to prepare, but Lin suddenly removes his vest and commands the system to allocate all his power points to strength. Park, shocked, asks if he had been carrying such a heavy weight the whole time. Zheng steps forward and warns Lin not to think they'll be intimidated by this. Zheng attacks with his skill but immediately notices something is off. The protagonist asks where Zheng thought he was aiming, mocking his slowness, before countering with his technique and sending him flying. The rest of the team charges together, but Xiu uses his abilities to strike them all down, throwing them far and eliminating them. 2 more opponents approach. Without difficulty, Xiu attacks them both at once, using the martial skill Flaming Claw. Shortly after, a continuous kick eliminates the 2 of them. Park asks if this is really the power of a rank 2 martial artist. His companion responds that it's terrifying. Zheng observes and comments on Xiu's strength, admitting that if he didn't have high defensive skills, Xiu's punch would have broken his spine. He declares that Xiu must be eliminated. Zheng advances. Lin strikes with his punch, but it passes through Zheng's body, realizing it's not real. Zheng attempts to attack him from behind with his skill. After the strike, Zheng notices that Xiu is injured on his shoulder. Preparing to attack again, Zheng uses a golden martial technique, 1,000 Illusions Barrage, stating it will turn Xiu into minced meat. Xiu confidently remarks that it's as easy as eating cake. As Zheng charges, Xiu states he's good at handling clones. Dodging, Xiu faces his opponent head-on. Zheng, shocked, asks how Xiu managed to see through his martial technique, and even knew his name. Lin calls it a living cheat. Xiu moves forward, using Tiger Force Punch and Explosive and Shattering Punch to strike Zheng, sending him flying. Though injured, Zheng declares he'll take Xiu down with him. As Zheng uses his ability, Xiu realizes it's another self-destruction technique. Thinking quickly, an explosion occurs. Xiu is thrown back, crashing against a wall. Injured, he reflects that if he hadn't used what his master taught him to strengthen his defense by covering his entire body with source energy, he would have been eliminated. The remaining team approaches, relieved. They claim that even though their leader failed to eliminate Xiu with the self-destruction, he probably can't even lift his fist now. They vow to cut him down slowly and avenge their leader. Lin asks why they think he can't lift his fist. Activating his fury, they're taken aback, noting how he appeared weakened and exhausted, but suddenly became stronger. In an instant, Xiu defeats all of them. Elsewhere, the protagonist is on his computer and comments that using fury is incredible, though he's so tired now he can barely hold the mouse. Knowing he has to head to the path of death tomorrow, he decides to gather information online. He discovers access to the site costs 10,000 coins and becomes irritated, questioning why he still has to pay to view the site. Deciding it doesn't matter, he uses what money he has left. He learns the path of death is surrounded by black rocks, devoid of grass, and looks terrifying. Reading further, he finds information about a rank 3 evolved rock snake hidden among the stones with paralyzing toxins that can leave a person anesthetized. A rank 4 crow, massive with wings that cover its body, goes berserk at the sight of humans. Xiu comments on the variety of evolved beasts, both big and small. He notes the presence of a rank 5 giant, extremely strong, and a rank 2 demon specializing in ball-type weapons for attacks. He's left speechless seeing images of rank 5 evolved beasts, realizing how powerful they are. Sighing, he closes the page and leaves his fate to luck. Curious, he checks the value of the spear his master gave him. He discovers it's worth 1 billion Union coins, and that's just the starting price at auction. Lin comments that he never imagined she was so wealthy, giving him such a valuable gift. He wonders if she actually likes him and wants him to feel grateful and offer himself to her. Elsewhere, Howling sneezes, remarking that she always sneezes when someone speaks ill of her. As night falls, in another location, an angry voice remarks that Zheng and the rest have been eliminated, calling them all useless. The speaker says it's no longer just about the Tang family. Since Xiu eliminated several members, he must be taken down. He orders a bounty to be posted on Hunter Skynet. A subordinate questions if such measures are necessary. The man responds that if the headquarters finds out the Black Sea branch couldn't handle a mere child and lost so many members, they'll lose all credibility. On the moving train, the camera pans across its passengers. Xiu is seen on his phone, smiling as if enjoying something. Then, the system displays his data. Lin comments that he bought the phone yesterday, sent his contact information to some friends, and someone is already calling. He sees it's Professor Luo and returns the call. Luo asks where he is at the moment. The protagonist replies that he's on the train heading to the path of death and asks why Luo is calling. Luo asks if he's seen Hunter Skynet and warns him that he's become a wanted target with a bounty. Xiu asks about Hunter Skynet. They discuss how the site is obscure and uses highly sophisticated technology, making it impossible for even skilled hackers to infiltrate, and not even the federal government can take it down. Luo advises him to be careful, as many people will try to eliminate him. Xiu assures him he'll be cautious. He searches on his phone to find out who posted the bounty, suspecting it's the Temple of Transformation. He notices the reward is 10 million Union coins and concludes that high-level martial artists won't be interested, only lower-level ones. He says this is great because he's waiting for these bastards to come and give him experience. Suddenly, the train starts shaking. Lin remarks that despite all the advanced technology, the train feels like it's experiencing an earthquake. He wonders what's happening outside as the noise grows louder. Suddenly, someone kicks the train door open and tries to attack him, but he dodges. Clenching his fists, Xiu counters, but the adversary also evades. Xiu attacks again, and this time the enemy falls to the ground, injured. Xiu observes a group of people and asks if this is an attempt to hijack the train. He notes that the confined space puts martial artists specializing in large weapons at a disadvantage. Through the window, he sees a ship flying by and comments that these people came prepared. An attacker tries to strike him from behind, but Xiu swiftly turns, grabs the man's arm, and uses flaming claw. The enemy's hand burns, and Xiu follows up with a punch, sending him flying. Lin watches the man collapse nearby and notices a thug threatening another passenger, demanding money or preparing to be eliminated. Xiu attacks the thug with explosive punch and asks the passenger if he's okay. The man thanks him and says he's fine. Xiu asks who these attackers are. The man explains they're the Black Gang, a group of thieves who rob travelers, and advises Xu to stay behind him and wait for them to leave. Without hesitation, Lin charges forward, attacking the gang with a series of strikes. The man, surprised, wonders why young people today are so strong. Multiple planes approach. The gang notices and comments that it's the Union Army, deciding to retreat. As they flee, their ship is attacked and explodes. The man remarks that the Union Army has arrived and asks where Xu is headed. Xu casually replies that he's gaining experience. Approaching the remaining group, he comments that it's free experience. Soldiers board the train and order everyone to put their hands up and remain still. The man pleads with the soldiers not to shoot, explaining they're just passengers. He points to Lin, saying that he already took down the entire gang before the soldiers arrived. A soldier asks to see Xu's ticket. After verifying it, he confirms Xu is indeed a passenger. An assistant approaches the passengers, apologizing for scaring them, and stating that the company will provide compensation. The man questions what will happen to the martial artists who were eliminated because of the company's mistake. The assistant says the matter will be addressed with their families. The protagonist walks away, commenting that since they chose to head to the path of death, they should be prepared to be eliminated at any moment. Tian approaches and asks if Xu is really going to the path of death, introducing himself and proposing they work together to look out for each other. Lin introduces himself and asks why he should team up with him. Tian explains that 3 years ago, he ventured to the path of death with an adventure team and knows the first half of the route well. He claims traveling with him will help avoid many nighttime dangers, pointing out that it's Lin's first time and it will be difficult without guidance. Xu agrees to work together and asks why Tian is going to the path of death. He wonders if, like others, Tian hunts evolved beasts to make money. Tian responds that he's looking for a rare herb that might be near an evolved beast, and asks if Xu could help him. The protagonist says he'll think about it and tells Tian to find him when they arrive at the station. They reach the beginning of the path of death, the only place where people can stay. Tian calls it the City of Black Steel. As they walk, a voice orders them to stop. They encounter a boy who claims that the path of death isn't for kids and warns they could be defeated at any moment. He suggests they hand over all their valuables, promising to protect them along the way. Xu asks if he's trying to rob them, thinking how quickly opportunities to gain experience keep coming. Suddenly, a beast appears and devours the boy with its massive mouth, chewing him up thoroughly. Lin observes and comments that one could be eliminated here at any moment, then asks what the beast is looking at. The beast charges toward him. The protagonist asks if the creature thinks he's weaker than that trash and strikes with his explosive punch, sending the beast flying and causing a huge impact. Tian, stunned, stares in disbelief. Xu asks why an evolved beast appeared so suddenly. Tian explains that it's common. Sometimes an evolved beast destroys the wall and enters the city, and it happens frequently. Lin remarks that despite this, people still dare to live here, saying they should abandon the place. Onlookers notice Xu and comment that his aura is only that of a rank 1 martial artist, yet he managed to eliminate a rank 2 beast with a single blow. A red-haired man mentions how many geniuses join the academy. A girl expresses her surprise at his strength and says she wants to team up with him. An older man comments that he can't understand why young people are so eager to seek the end. A bald man questions if the old man is cursing them and asks if he knows what kind of evolution the beasts around the path of death possess. The old man responds that he can't remember, saying his memory is poor. The bald man hits him, telling him to stop acting like a fool. Tian remarks that these people have issues, noting that the old man isn't as simple as he seems. Xu wonders if everyone in the city is strong, concluding that they must be, or they would have been devoured by beasts. The old man picks up his pipe from the ground. The bald man kicks him, asking if he dares to ignore him. Lin steps in and kicks the bald man, asking if he doesn't know how to respect his elders. The bald man asks if Xu wants to cause trouble. Xu retorts, asking if he isn't the one causing trouble, and gives him 2 choices: leave on his own or be eliminated. The bald man and his group back off, saying they'll go, but warning Xu to watch his back. The protagonist approaches the old man and asks if he's okay. The old man says he's fine and thanks him. Xu says they're leaving and bids him farewell. The old man asks them to wait. Puffing on his cigar, he comments that people like Xu are rare these days and says he hates seeing respectful individuals eliminated too soon. He advises them to change their path after walking 500 meters. Lin thanks him. Tian observes, thinking the old man must have known their combat ability all along and deliberately helped them, finding him frightening. As they walk, they notice the shadow of something. A massive beast appears, followed by several evolved beasts that attack the bald man, leaving him as nothing but a skull. Another member of the group starts running, but the beasts catch up to him and he begs for salvation. Xu and Tian watch. Tian comments on how terrifying it is and feels grateful they listened to the old man and changed their path. The protagonist agrees, saying that, as the old man said, some people who appear weak should never be underestimated. They continue walking. Shu comments on the stone pillars and that they still haven't found the path. Tian reassures him, saying people often leave marks behind, and asks for time to look. Then, two people come running. A red-haired girl with torn clothes angrily asks if they knew something was there, and why they didn't warn her. Lin comments that they're strangers and asks why he should care if they were eliminated. The girl, indignant, begins to argue. Tian shouts that he's found the path, and everyone begins walking together. The red-haired girl decides to follow them, saying they seem familiar with the area. The protagonist comments that if it weren't for him, they wouldn't have gotten out so easily. She thanks him for the compliment, and he explains that the people who came before them left marks behind. Observing ahead, Shu asks what that forest is. Tian replies that it's the Blue Forest, named because all the trees are blue. He warns that there are many beasts inside, so they need to be cautious. Lin notices something unusual and hears sounds as beasts approach. Tian complains about the large number of them, while the protagonist thinks to himself that he was worried about not gaining enough experience. Martial artists begin running from the beasts. Lin observes and thinks they're afraid of grasshoppers. He grabs a rope, noting that while they're small and numerous, they're tricky to deal with. But for him, it's easy. Grabbing his spear, he uses the skill 100 Birds returning to the Phoenix. Several notifications pop up, indicating the beasts have been eliminated. Shu realizes he didn't gain much experience but managed to take down many of them. Kneeling on the ground, he watches the burning grasshoppers and comments that in such a short time, he collected over 100 rank 2 crystals, concluding that the path of death is truly a place to make fortunes. He confidently asserts that even if millions of grasshoppers come, he can handle them easily. The onlookers are stunned. Tian reflects on how Shu easily eliminated over 100 grasshoppers and thinks he's incredibly strong. Perhaps now he can retrieve the herb he's looking for. Shu walks ahead and tells the others to follow because more monsters are waiting. He asks Tian what he's searching for in the Blue Forest, since they don't need to pass through it to reach the Black Salt Lake. Tian explains that, according to the Martial Artist Union Forum, the farther they go, the more evolved beasts they'll encounter. He adds that the beasts are influenced by the soil, and even their skin turns blue, allowing them to camouflage within the forest. Lin checks his phone and sees the available rewards. He asks what the salt crystal is since it has such a high value. Tian explains that the crystal is found at the bottom of the Black Salt Lake and that every 10 years, the lake produces one. He emphasizes that it's extremely rare. The protagonist comments that his destination is Black Salt Lake and says it's fascinating, suggesting they go there to try their luck and that he'll accept the mission first. He thinks about how he's eliminating with purpose. Something tries to attack them, but they dodge. Shu, wielding a sniper rifle, continues taking shots at their attackers. He comments that he's already figured out the shooter's position. Climbing a tree, he confronts his opponent, who looks terrified. Shu eliminates him with his spear, but realizes there are more enemies and decides they all need to become his experience. Meanwhile, Tian is still dodging attacks and comments that the attackers are gang members. He grabs his weapon and uses his lightline skill, sending his opponent flying and causing a massive impact. Another attack comes his way, but he dodges, breathing heavily. He looks at Shu and thinks how terrifying he is since, while Tian has only eliminated one opponent, Shu has already taken down 6. Lin approaches Tian and asks if the bandit gang operates in this area. Tian explains that many martial artists pass through the Blue Forest attacking others and stealing their belongings. Shu asks where they should go next, noting that all the trees look the same, making it impossible to find their way. Tian reassures him, saying he has a device. Shu observes and asks if it's a compass. Tian replies that it's not, as the magnetic force in this area disrupts compass functionality, rendering them useless. He explains that this device measures the direction of the magnetic force, and that the deeper they go into the Blue Forest, the stronger it becomes. With this tool, they won't have to worry about getting lost. He points out the correct direction, but they notice something strange. Shu comments that there seems to be an evolved beast in the area. As they continue walking, they notice the ground is wet. Shu asks if it's been raining heavily. Tian responds that it occasionally rains in the path of death, but only in small areas. Lin notices something and approaches, coming face to face with a rank 3 beast. He asks Tian if he has salt, recalling that he once heard leeches are afraid of salt. Tian says he has some salt, but not much. The protagonist grabs the salt container, approaches the beast and throws it at it. The beast rises quickly, letting out a loud noise but soon calms down. Then, it strikes a tree, releasing a green goo that cracks the tree and topples it. The beast remains still for a moment but soon charges at them again. Xu uses his 100 birds returning to the phoenix technique, unleashing multiple flames and burning the beast. He wonders if he's defeated it, reasoning that losing such a large amount of fluid should be fatal, and the flames should have burned it completely. The beast burrows its face into the sand. Lin observes, noticing it sinking. Tian asks if it's over. The protagonist warns them to stay cautious, stating that the beast is still there. At that moment, a man approaches them. Tian explains that he's a hunter who ambushes people in the Blue Forest. Tian asks the hunter what he intends to do. The hunter replies that it's obvious, to kill them and steal their belongings. Using his analyzing eye, Xu feels a chill and warns the hunter that if he takes one more step forward, he'll lose his legs. The hunter remarks that it's the first time he's ever felt fear toward prey, but promises to make Xu's end less painful. As the hunter walks, he steps on the buried beast, startling him. He realizes it's a Tyrannosaurus. The beast bites his legs, and he struggles to escape but can't. Xu watches and comments that the hunter was eliminated so easily. A notification informs him that the beast was also defeated, but he notices numerous larvae on the ground and becomes alarmed. The larvae swarm the hunter. He tries to shake them off, but there are too many and they overpower him. The larvae wriggle and ultimately defeat him. Tian suggests they leave the area. Lin comments that these blood larvae are small, but all of them are rank 3 evolved beasts. Xu charges at the larvae and uses his storm ability, followed by Pear Blossom. Multiple notifications pop up, indicating accumulated experience. He remarks that he never thought he'd gain so much EXP. He continues attacking with his skills, eliminating all the larvae. More notifications confirm their defeat. Soon, all the larvae are gone. Tian watches in amazement, thinking how the protagonist wiped out all the blood larvae in just a minute. Xu notices that they're not entirely defeated as the main beast charges at him again. Dodging, he counters with flames, burning it, but notices one escaping. He chases after it, asking who it thinks it is to try running away. Using 100 birds facing Phoenix, he unleashes another barrage of flames, eliminating it as well. More notifications appear, rewarding him with experience, and he happily comments about how much he earned. He notes that the crystal can be sold for a high price. Checking his phone, he sees that the bounty for the leech was 10 million and celebrates, saying he's rich. He notices his stats have increased and commands the system to allocate all points to strength. Calling Tian to continue, Tian responds that the Black Salt Lake is just ahead. Walking further, they arrive at the lake. Lin asks if this is the lake, and Tian confirms it. Xu observes and comments on how strange it looks, frozen like that. Tian kneels and asks for Xu's help to find the plant he mentioned earlier, showing him a picture. He explains that his daughter was infected with a virus, which developed into a terminal illness that gradually weakened her immunity. In the final stage of the disease, even mild cold exposure could be fatal. For years, he traveled in search of a cure and discovered that at the bottom of the Black Salt Lake, the black salt coral could save her. He mentions that the lake is home to a strong evolved beast, but it shouldn't be stronger than rank 4. Tian adds that he has already defeated many beasts along the way and implores Xu's help to retrieve the plant. The protagonist reflects for a moment and comments that he wouldn't have made it this far without Tian's help, deciding to dive in and search for it. Tian, deeply grateful, hands him protective goggles and a mini holo scanner to help him see underwater. He warns that the coral isn't always present in the lake, so finding it will depend on luck. Xu puts on the gear, assures Tian he'll try, and tells him not to worry, promising he'll retrieve the black salt coral. Entering the lake, he comments on the cold but uses source energy to neutralize it. Swimming, he observes the vastness of the lake, noting its emptiness. No fish, no salt crystals, and no black coral. He notices something white and wonders if it's a salt crystal, but as he approaches, he realizes it's not. Suddenly, he encounters a rank 4 evolved beast. The beast charges, and Xu tries to attack it but realizes it's too fast. Activating his fury, he strikes again, but the beast remains unharmed. Observing closely, he decides to use his explosive punch, hitting the beast and pushing it back with an explosion. He realizes that being underwater limits his ability's power. Hesitant, he notices the system hasn't shown a notification indicating the beast's defeat. Looking around, he sees something shining. He wonders if it's the salt crystal and notices the black salt coral nearby. As he moves closer to grab the items, the beast reappears. In disbelief, he wonders if his skills are useless against it. He tries attacking again, but the beast dodges and retaliates. Xu concludes that his abilities are too restricted underwater and decides to wait for his fury to subside before counterattacking. Realizing he needs to leave the water, he swims up, but the beast chases him, attempting to bite him. Frustrated, he abandons his suit. The beast bites into the suit, mistaking it for him. Satisfied with his strategy, Xu begins pulling the suit, hoping it's durable enough to withstand the tension. He exits the water while pulling the suit. The beast leaps out of the water, attempting to attack again. Tian watches, stunned. Xu throws the suit to the ground, baiting the beast to pounce on it, causing a massive impact. Approaching the fallen beast, Xu sarcastically asks if it still thinks it can eat him now that they're out of the water. He uses his ability and eliminates the beast. Tian runs over and asks if he's okay. Xu replies that he found both items and emerges from the water holding them. Tian, with tears streaming down his face, confirms that it's the correct coral and expresses immense gratitude, saying that his daughter is now saved. He hands Xu a martial arts cultivation scroll, explaining that it was left by his ancestor, but he can no longer cultivate it. He insists it's a gift for Xu. The protagonist remarks that such an item is incredibly valuable and says he can't accept it. Tian insists, explaining that the black salt coral's value isn't less than the scroll's. To him, the coral is a life-saving medicine, and he urges Yu to keep the scroll. Xu accepts, saying that since Tian insists, he'll take it. He then asks if Tian plans to return now. Tian confirms, saying he'll deliver the coral to the doctor to create the medicine and save his daughter. Lin asks what lies ahead if he continues forward. Tian explains that 50 kilometers ahead is the rest of the Blue Forest. After that, he's unsure, as 3 years ago he ventured there with other adventurers but retreated due to the strength of the beasts. Saying goodbye, Tian heads off in another direction. Sitting by the campfire eating, the protagonist comments that he never imagined the fish's meat would taste so good, and that the technique snow step without a trace seems incredible. He feels lighter and notes the power of technical cultivation. Looking at the rainy sky, he complains that his shirt still hasn't dried. As the rain grows heavier, he sighs and wonders if he should stay where he is. Suddenly, he notices a girl running toward him, shouting for help and saying an evolved beast is chasing her. She collapses, and Xu uses his analyzing eye to observe her. Approaching, he helps her up. She thanks him, but then suddenly tries to punch him. Xu dodges and asks why she's attacking him. Lin calls her by name and rank, deducing that she's a hunter from the Blue Forest, and that her performance is poor, as she couldn't hide her intent to eliminate him. Wang, surprised that he knows her name, retorts that someone as weak as him can be easily killed. She calls her team and orders them to attack. A boy charges at the protagonist, but Xu counters with his Pear Blossom ability, sending the boy flying and eliminating him. The rest of the team advances with abilities such as Continuous Whip, Mad Dog Punch, and Bone Clamp Kick. Xu, confused by the names of the techniques, counters with Judgment. One of the attackers is struck, but Lin continues fighting and eliminates the rest. Wang observes and comments that even though he's only rank 1, he easily defeated rank 2 opponents. She says this makes her even more excited, as taking down a strong martial artist is far more interesting. The protagonist notices Wang standing right in front of him and thinks about how fast she is. She strikes him with several attacks, but Xu dodges. Wang remarks that he's not bad and attacks him with the Infernal Dragon technique, emitting a terrifying aura. Lin dodges again, but she quickly follows up and lands a hit. She mocks him, asking why he can't even defend himself. Laughing, she explains that the more he tries, the faster she'll become, until he's injured so much he can't resist anymore. The protagonist runs toward her, saying he'll take her out first. Despite his injuries, he continues attacking. Wang asks if he's seeking his end, and counters with the Moonfang Slash ability. Xu retaliates with Total Assault, Explosion, and Pear Blossom Storm, causing a massive explosion. Wang, surprised, comments on how his power suddenly increased, but she is ultimately defeated. Leaving the forest, Lin remarks how strange the place is, with one side overflowing with water and the other completely dry. He drinks some water, noting how the intense heat could easily lead to dehydration or heat stroke without sufficient resources. Thankfully, he brought a bottle that can hold enough water for a day. As he continues walking, he notices the sand shifting and becomes alarmed. He starts running and encounters something enormous approaching him. He soon realizes it's a rank 4 monster attempting to attack. Grabbing his spear, he uses the 100 Birds returning to the Phoenix ability, unleashing flames. The beast opens its mouth, swallowing the flames, and then freezes in pain. Lin wonders if the creature is that weak and already defeated, questioning why something so large would go down so easily. Hearing laughter behind him, he turns to see a group of people approaching. One of them explains that the creature is an Imizno worm. A boy asks if Xu defeated it. Another member of the group comments that they must have underestimated him, doubting that a rank 1 martial artist could take down such a creature. They suspect he got the kill by sheer luck. Xu insists that the creature is his prey, but the boy challenges him to prove it. The group hurries toward the worm, eager to extract its teeth, claiming they're excellent materials for forging weapons. A girl in the group intervenes, stating that Xu already claimed the creature and warning the others not to start trouble. Chen calls her stupid, asking which group she belongs to, implying she's siding with Xu because she finds him attractive. The girl demands he repeat himself, saying she's tolerated his behavior long enough. Another boy tries to calm them down, suggesting they let it go and allow her to do as she pleases. The protagonist wonders why they're arguing among themselves and jokingly speculates it might be because they think he's handsome. Suddenly, the monster rises. A blonde girl warns everyone that it's not dead and tells them to move. Chen looks back, startled to see the worm getting up. Zhang orders everyone to retreat. One of the boys accuses Xu of causing this and asks why he didn't warn them the beast was still alive. Xu calmly replies that he already told them it was his prey. As the boy charges at him, Lin remarks that since this is the path of death, he should have been prepared to be eliminated. Xu takes him down with a single strike. The group becomes outraged. Xu notes that they seem to be from the same group and questions why they didn't attack him together. Zhang clarifies that they're not part of the same group, explaining that they merely decided to travel together along the path. He adds that he could have taken down the beast alone. The blonde girl warns that the worm is coming back. Xu acknowledges that his previous attack wasn't enough. Grabbing his spear, he unleashes flames with his 100 birds returning to the Phoenix ability. The monster is struck and falls to the ground. The blonde girl watches in awe, commenting on Xu's incredible strength. Zhang admits he's never seen anything like it. A notification appears, confirming the beast's defeat. Xu approaches and collects the crystal. Zhang remarks that it's strange. Xu's aura feels weak, yet he's incredibly powerful in battle. The group reminds Yu that the beast's teeth are valuable. Zhang approaches him to negotiate, asking for a few teeth and explaining that they're essential for the group. She offers to exchange them for other materials. Lin starts walking away and says he has no use for the teeth, telling them to just take them. Zhang is surprised, thanks him, and instructs her team to retrieve the teeth. The blonde girl teases that Xu gave up the teeth so easily because he must be infatuated with their leader. Zhang tells her to shut up and help extract the teeth. As they work on removing them, they notice Xu leaving the area. Continuing on his way, Xu encounters something strange again. He begins to run but trips and falls into an empty space. Holding his head, he asks if he fell into a hole. Spotting something shining, he remarks that it looks like a hidden passage. Touching the wall, he wonders if this is a ruin from the last century, possibly a remnant of the battle between humans and alien invaders. Noticing holes in the wall, he deduces they might be some kind of switches. Suddenly, he senses something approaching and mutters, "Something's coming." A rat appears, followed by a swarm of others. Xu positions himself and starts attacking with Pear Blossom and Explosive Storm. Notifications pop up, indicating the rats have been eliminated. Breathing heavily, he comments that while the rats aren't a threat individually, in large numbers, they're exhausting to deal with. Still, he says the effort was worth it as he continues walking with several crystals in hand. Noticing how the rats seemed frightened, he wonders aloud if there's something else in this place. As he moves forward, he spots a sword but stops and asks who's there. Zhang appears and asks if it's him. Xu remarks that it's them again and questions why they're there, wondering if the rats were afraid of them. Zhang explains that they were wandering, fell into the same area, and encountered the rats as well. She suggests that since they keep crossing paths, they should introduce themselves. She shares her name, introducing the blonde girl as Lei, the large man next to her as Jiang, her boyfriend, and the slim man as Peng. Lin introduces himself and proposes that, since they're in the same situation, they should travel together. They agree and start walking. Zhang comments that there must be a hidden passage and asks if there are any other paths. Xu speculates that the place is likely a ruin from the year 2554. Zhang asks if that was over 100 years ago and how he knows. Xu explains that he saw the date etched on the wall and, approaching it, mentions that he feels something familiar about the markings. Zhang asks what he means by familiar. Xu gets an idea, pulls out a crystal from the rats, and Zhang asks if it's an evolved beast crystal. He explains that he defeated some rats and believes the golden yellow rat's crystal is the key to the hidden passage. Placing the crystal into the glowing slot, his suspicion is confirmed as a door opens. After the door opens, they enter, and Zhang remarks that in the last century, evolved beast crystals were used as a new energy source. Xu responds that, when the time comes, they can't simply rely on crystals. They notice something and appear confused. Zhang asks what it is, and the protagonist suggests it might be an experimental lab from the past century. Then, they look to the side and realize it's a mutant. He explains that in the last century, To defeat alien invaders, humans fused their bodies with beast DNA to create new humans. Although these humans were incredibly strong, they were ruthless, leading to the experiment's termination and the destruction of all mutants. Lin expresses disbelief that, after a century, something so terrifying hadn't completely disappeared. Suddenly, a plant creeps along the floor, grabs someone's leg and abruptly pulls Peng. Everyone panics as the plant drags him away. Peng desperately screams for help. Zhang grabs her weapon, and the boy is lifted upside down. Something attacks the plant, and the others shout his name in alarm. Xu moves in, slicing the plant. After cutting it, Peng falls to the ground. Lin observes that he is unconscious and urges them to leave. However, Peng's finger twitches, he vomits, and then he stands up. The group asks what happened. The protagonist explains that it's a virus, and that the tentacled monster's body contains it. Panic spreads. Lei points out a nearby exit, but as flames begin to approach, they all run, pursued by a massive flame-covered monster. Xu notices several monsters chasing them and urges everyone to run. Peng transforms into a monster and approaches. Zhang attempts to attack him, but Lin intercepts and strikes as well, explaining that the virus is extremely potent. He elaborates that if a martial artist is infected with this virus, they will immediately turn into a zombie of the same rank. Even if their body is injured, they will continue moving. Anyone defeated by them will also be infected. The only way to stop them is to completely immobilize them. Lin attacks Peng with the intent to paralyze him. More plants approach, attempting to attack, but he dodges, startled to realize they are not just vines but a type of unknown evolved beast. He warns everyone to be cautious. A multitude of unknown beasts continue advancing. The team charges to confront them, but Zhang gets ensnared. Lin cuts the vines, remarking on the difficulty of dealing with them. Then, he uses his 100 birds returning to the phoenix technique, burning them all. Realizing they fear fire, he attacks again with the same technique, incinerating them. However, the beasts wrap around some glass containers. The protagonist warns that they are trying to break the containers to release the mutants and urges everyone to stop them. They rush in, but the glass begins to crack. Eventually, the containers shatter, releasing the mutants, creatures with green eyes, massive claws, and enormous mouths filled with sharp teeth. Xu observes a rank 3 mutant and tells everyone to find the exit. The mutant's hand grazes his hair, but he quickly dodges, realizing he was almost eliminated. He retaliates with his pear blossom explosive storm technique, but the mutant counters, sending him flying. Zhang grows worried and calls out to him, inadvertently drawing the mutants toward her. Standing her ground, she uses her skill to attack them, but wonders if it's ineffective. Determined, she unleashes 100 birds returning to the phoenix, emitting a barrage of flames. Meanwhile, the monsters close in on Lin. He tells the team to leave first while he holds them off. He thinks about the many unknown dangers in this ruin and the need to preserve his combat abilities, temporarily refraining from using rage or an all-out attack. Instead, he employs techniques taught by his master, striking the mutant with his spear using pear blossom explosive storm. He notices that his power has indeed grown stronger. Then, he grabs his spear infused with source energy and continues attacking, taking down enemies and gaining a substantial amount of experience points. More mutants approach to attack. Lin reflects that, although these mutants have tough scales, feel no pain, and are hard to deal with, they grant a lot of experience. In this narrow tunnel, it's dangerous to get surrounded, but fighting so many mutants presents a great opportunity to accumulate experience. Another notification pops up, indicating a mutant has been eliminated. Lei observes and remarks that Lin is really strong, joking that he's only cool for 3 seconds. Zhang rushes forward, attacking alongside them. They keep battling the mutants, and the protagonist receives notifications informing him that more have been eliminated. He asks to allocate the earned points to his stats, continues defeating the mutants, and comments that he feels stronger now, and that his spear feels much lighter. Zhang watches him and asks why he seems so energetic, looking even more motivated after the fight. Suddenly, they hear a loud noise in the distance. Lei asks what it could be. Xu suggests there might be an explosion on the other side of the tunnel, and that the sound could be coming from a strong, evolved beast. Meanwhile, the mutants continue emitting sounds and retreating. Zhang wonders if the mutants are fleeing, but Lin responds that something is summoning them and suggests they ignore it and keep moving forward. They enter another section of the tunnel and find a large cache of weapons. Jiang is impressed by the stockpile. Zhang comments that they're all old laser weapons and bombs, adding that if they could get them out of there to sell, they could make a lot of money. The protagonist retorts, saying they first need to figure out how to escape the area. Lei urges silence, noting that it sounds like there's fighting nearby. Everyone falls quiet, and presses their ears to a door. Jiang asks if the sound is coming from behind the door. Jiang speculates that other martial artists might have entered there. They try to open the door, which is incredibly heavy. After managing to do so, they are met with a blinding light and a massive explosion. Stunned and confused, they look around. Xu observes the scene, noting there are many martial artists and mutants there, and wonders why everyone has gathered in that place. He realizes that the mutants they encountered earlier were summoned by an evolved beast. A boy is about to be attacked, but Lin steps in to defend him. The boy thanks him and asks if he's new there. The team seems to recognize the boy, and Qin Feng calls out to them, indicating he knows them as well. Zhang asks what happened there, and why there are so many mutants and people in that place. Qin Feng explains that he and his attack team accidentally entered the area, which is a tunnel leading to the surface, but a rank 6 beast is blocking the exit, preventing them from leaving. Everyone is left speechless. The boy describes the rank 6 vine beast as an enormous creature, 10 meters long, detailing its terrifying features. Zhang questions how they dared to fight such a strong creature. Qin Feng responds that the evolved beast has sealed the exit, and unless they eliminate it, they have no choice but to wait for their end. Xu comments that fighting a rank 6 beast sounds reckless. The boy suggests taking the risk to defeat the vine beast, mentioning that a rank 6 crystal is extremely valuable. He adds that Luo used a level 2 scale grenade, which should have injured the beast. At that moment, another explosion occurs. They are warned that the vine beast is emerging and that everyone must be cautious as it's injured. Lin points out that the vines are part of the experiment and belong to the beast. He observes that the vine's tendrils extend so far that it seems the entire ruin is under the creature's control. The mutants begin approaching. Luo proposes splitting the group in two. One team will handle the mutants, while the other will focus on defeating the vine beast. A group confidently moves to confront the mutants and starts their attack. Lin warns everyone to be careful, explaining that the mutants are being controlled by the vine beast. He ponders why he feels such an overwhelming urge to fight at that moment, commenting on how strange the sensation is. The beast watches them and moves in to attack Lin, but the protagonist counters, throwing it far away. Zhang laughs and attacks a mutant, joining the intense battle. Xu walks, listening to the attacks around him, and wonders if the team is behaving like those he encountered in the lobby. He reflects that when people are overly energetic, their combat ability increases. He strikes a mutant with his spear, looks around, and notices all the mutants have been eliminated. Zhang points to the vine beast, which is on the verge of being defeated. The others shout to keep attacking, declaring that victory is near and that they're about to win. However, they begin arguing about who will claim the crystal. Zhang calls Lin to join them, but he holds her shoulder and asks if she hasn't noticed any changes in herself. She looks confused. The protagonist explains that since they entered the lobby, everyone has been overly energized except for Qiang. He comments that the grenade might have released an adrenaline-inducing gas. This type of gas stimulates adrenaline, temporarily boosting combat ability but harming the body. He concludes that this is why everyone is recklessly attacking the beast. Zhang accuses Lu of using everyone as cannon fodder. Lin responds that Lu is manipulating them to exhaust the beast while he takes the loot without much effort. The beast remains alive, and the group continues attacking, but suffers injuries. A boy notices something wrong and sees a teammate mutated by the virus. They scream for everyone to be careful. Many are infected and begin closing in to spread the virus. Zhang observes and comments that they've turned into mutants. Fortunately, she says they no longer need to worry about them and orders the mutants to be eliminated, as the evolved beast is luring martial artists, turning them into puppets, and using them against others. Lin states that the situation can't last much longer. Liu declares they aren't his allies and orders them to be killed. He attacks the beast with his powerful swing skill, delivering a blow that knocks it down and defeats it. The group sees the rank 6 crystal and rushes toward it, shouting that it belongs to them and starting another argument. Liu attacks and orders everyone to be eliminated. Zhang asks Lin if they're going for the crystal, and he replies that they are because Liu shouldn't get it. Liu declares the crystal is his and that no one can take it. Xu approaches to attack Liu. As he's about to strike, Liu turns and asks if he dares to take the crystal from him. The two begin fighting. The protagonist accuses Liu of using adrenaline in the grenades to turn everyone into cannon fodder so he could claim everything for himself. The others overhear this, grow furious, and close in to attack Liu. He mocks them as weak and arrogant while counterattacking. Zhou notices Liu must be using some energy source but doesn't seem as strong as before. He attacks with his judgment skill, throwing Liu far and causing an explosion. Furious, Liu tries to retaliate, but the rest of the team steps in to defeat him. They attack and confront him for his betrayal. One of them tells the protagonist to step aside, claiming the crystal as his, and warning that if Shu dares to take it, he'll be eliminated too. Shu uses his Pear Blossom Tempest skill, but notices the beast is moving again. Confused, he wonders if it wasn't defeated. With renewed determination, he sees it as another opportunity, and attacks with 100 birds returning to the phoenix, finally defeating it. A notification of experience gained appears, and Shu questions why a rank 6 beast granted only a little over 8 million points. He reflects that his damage contribution was less than 40%, which is why he only received 1/10 of the experience. As he moves to claim the crystal, Lu rushes forward, shouting for him to leave it, claiming it as his. Lu approaches rapidly and unleashes a flurry of attacks. Lin realizes that, as expected, he can't handle a rank 5 martial artist. If this continues, he'll be defeated. So he decides to use his ultimate move. He channels all his power into Pear Blossom Storm Explosion. Lu, shocked, wonders how Shu suddenly became so strong. The protagonist responds that a martial artist isn't as invincible as they seem, attacking again and declaring that his martial technique has grown even more powerful. Lu, injured, reflects that the protagonist's move wasn't even his strongest. Shu uses his ability and runs away, mocking Lu. Furious, Lu vows to defeat him. Meanwhile, Lin encounters a closed door and tries to open it but fails. Liu rushes toward him, shouting for him to stop dreaming big. The protagonist keeps forcing the door and finally manages to open it. Liu attempts to attack him, but is hit by an explosion. More notifications come in for Zhu, who comments that his whole body aches and admits that without the bomb he took from the weapons depot, he wouldn't have been able to defeat a rank 5 martial artist. He asks the system to allocate all points to power, strength, physique, and agility. Zhang and her team approach, asking if he's okay. Lin replies that he is. Zhang questions him about the rank 5 martial artist she saw chasing after him. Xiu explains that he was bombed and eliminated. Everyone is left speechless. The protagonist suggests they leave and abandon the ruins. As they move forward, they come across several fallen people and comment that they seem to be the only ones left. Lin suggests tending to the injured first. While drinking water, he notes that the corpse of the vine beast contains many useful materials and that other martial artists might have left something valuable behind. After an hour, Xu asks if everyone is ready to leave. Lei responds affirmatively. Jiang asks if continuing forward will lead them out of the ruins. Chen Feng says he believes so since he wandered through the area and reached this point. Beyond this place, there doesn't seem to be another path. Lin encounters another steel door and jokingly comments about the lack of creativity in door designs. He asks everyone to push the door together. Upon opening it, they're left in awe at the sight of a control room. Zhang recalls that Feng had learned some technological knowledge and asks if he can activate the control station. He replies that the equipment is old, he's unfamiliar with it, and they'll need to figure out how to activate it. The protagonist suggests that this underground ruin likely uses crystals as a power source and says they need to find a device to insert crystals into. He opens a compartment and identifies it as an energy source box. Looking inside, he sees several empty slots and begins placing the crystals he has into them. Irritated, he wonders why it consumes so many, and continues until all the slots are filled. Frustrated that nothing happens at first, the crystals suddenly start emitting light beams. He observes that the system has been activated. Zhang approaches and asks if he found the switch. He replies that he located the power box and used 20 crystals to activate the control room. Chunfeng explains that this is the central teleportation station, and that they can finally leave. Lin asks if he knows how to operate it, and Chunfeng confidently says it shouldn't be a problem. He pulls a lever, revealing a circle surrounded by a blue aura, and boasts about being a genius, stating that this teleportation station can take them out. He warns that the crystals won't last long and urges everyone to get into position on the teleportation pad. They step onto the station, which emits a blue light and transports them to another location, where they collapse on the ground. Chunfeng exclaims that they've finally left that place. Jiang remarks that they've lived to see another day. Xiu suggests they part ways there. Zhang asks where he plans to go next, and the protagonist replies that he'll keep moving. Lei teases that their leader can't stand to see him leave and suggests they chase after him. Zhang tells her to shut up. At nightfall, Xu makes a campfire and comments that he never thought spending the night in the desert could feel so refreshing. He mentions that in his rush earlier, he hadn't examined the rank 6 evolved beast crystal. When he opens his bag, he finds the larger crystal devouring the smaller ones. He wonders what it is, and if the rank 6 crystal has become a living thing. The crystal then stops consuming the others and sits down. Lin observes and remarks that the rank 6 crystal seems to understand emotions, like embarrassment and fear, and that it has truly come to life. He picks up the crystal and asks what the hell it is, and if it's an evolved beast that secretly crawled into his bag and ate his rank 6 crystal. He threatens to eliminate it and open its stomach to retrieve the crystals. The crystal appears frightened, and Zhu realizes it can understand him. He takes a picture of the crystal and comments that he'll search online to figure out what it is, but finds nothing. He wonders if it's a creature that just looks like a crystal. Touching it, he notices it's soft and fleshy. He decides not to eliminate it, but warns it not to eat his crystals or run away without permission. Zhu remarks that being alone would be boring and decides to treat it as a pet, naming it Roller. As they travel, they defeat a beast, and the crystal runs to grab the leftover crystal. The protagonist comments that since it helped him find crystals along the way, it's a fair reward and lets it eat. He reflects that this small creature is fat, but very fast. Every time he defeats an evolved beast, it digs out the crystal and gives it to Roller, saving him effort. It seems Roller really enjoys eating crystals. After walking further, they come across a forest and a sea. While washing his face, Zhu comments on how amazing the sight is but is suddenly attacked. He blocks the attack, but gets injured on his leg. Realizing the strike was sharp, he concludes it's an expert. Looking closer, he sees Luo, who is injured. The girl recognizes him, nearly collapses, but he catches her and asks if she's okay. Noticing her injuries, he says he has medicine and offers to apply it. When he turns her around, Luo screams at him to let her go. The protagonist asks what else she expects him to do, pointing out that he's using his precious recovery medicine on her. While applying the medicine, he uses his analyzer eye and thinks he never imagined she was a rank 4 martial artist with combat skills far superior to others of her rank. Luo asks why he's there. Lin tells her to guess, promising a reward if she's correct. The girl responds that she's not interested and tells him not to say. Zhu reflects that she's still as annoying as ever. He explains that he's heading to the Sanctuary Academy, having been accepted by the Saint Territory Academy. Luo, indignant, asks if he really got accepted. Zhu clarifies that she shouldn't misunderstand. He didn't join the academy because of her. She retorts that he overthinks things. Zhu senses someone approaching and comments that it's not just one person. Luo says they're there for her and orders him to leave quickly. Lin asks how he could abandon a girl there and simply flee. He crouches and tells her he'll carry her. The girl climbs onto his back. The protagonist starts running and tells her to hold on tight, taking a bottle from his bag and instructing her to drink it to speed up her recovery. Luo asks if Roller is an evolved rank 6 beast. Zhu replies that it's his pet, called Roller, and warns her not to think about killing it for its crystal. The girl simply replies that it's a rank 6 crystal. Lin says he forgot to mention that the bottle she's holding is one he already drank from. Luo sighs and comments that he's not even remotely charming. As he carries her, Zhu notices he can't run fast. A squad approaches, and Luo warns him they're already closing in. The leader remarks that she eliminated many of his group and asks if she thinks she can just walk away. One squad member orders her to stay behind and throws an attack tool. Running forward, the protagonist stops and sees the tool falling in front of him, but dodges it and keeps moving. The squad surrounds them. Zhu notices they're all rank 3 and thinks that even while surrounded by these people, Luo managed to eliminate many of them, questioning if she can still get out of this situation. The leader tells her to save her energy, declaring that she can't escape. Luo retorts that they'll be eliminated. The leader counters, saying they've already attacked her before, and now she's gravely injured. He mocks her, asking if she truly thinks he's afraid and taunting her for being accompanied by someone so weak that he can't even help her. He suggests she go to Big Brother so he can pamper her. The girl murmurs softly for Zhu to put her down. Lin comments that he's being underestimated. The leader calls his companions and orders them to eliminate the boy, but leave the woman alive for their amusement later. The squad advances to attack the protagonist. Zhu tries to defend himself, dodging and positioning for an attack. He grabs his spear and uses his 100 birds facing the phoenix skill. The woman is startled, asking what that is and whether it's a martial technique. Meanwhile, flames continue to strike the enemies. On the other side, Luo is fighting the rest of the squad. The leader watches, intrigued, thinking that even gravely injured, she is still difficult to handle. One of the men warns that the big brother is arriving. He approaches with a weapon to attack her, but is blocked by Lin. The protagonist asks if she's okay. Luo replies that she is and asks if he can fight. He retorts that a man cannot be weak and suggests they finish this quickly. The squad advances against him. The old man, noticing Lin also uses a spear, says he will teach him how to wield it. Zhu watches closely as the old man uses his falling star skill. Lin replies that he will teach the old man how to use a spear himself, activating his 100 birds facing the phoenix skill. An explosion occurs, and the old man admits that Lin is very strong. The protagonist says he only used 10% of his power. Suddenly, 2 enemies leap to attack him. Xu reacts quickly, using his judgment skill to eliminate them. Meanwhile, the old man approaches again to attack, but Lin turns and blocks the strike. The old man, surprised by the weight of Xiu's spear, asks him to wait and comments that it's a black spear, possibly of black on. The protagonist asks if he knows the weapon. The old man says he never imagined Lin would be lucky enough to find such a high-quality weapon there. He declares that once he eliminates Lin, the spear will be his. Xiu attacks him, asking if he likes the spear, and saying he'll give it to him. He throws the spear, but the old man can't catch it due to its weight. Lin calls him an idiot and kicks him, sending him flying and causing a massive impact. He retrieves his spear and says that trash like the old man isn't worthy of using it. Another opponent approaches to attack. On the other side, the leader pants, saying Luo is terrifying. A sudden attack comes, and Luo reacts by striking the opponent with her autumn flower skill. The protagonist shouts for her to be careful of someone behind her, suggesting she avoid fighting that way, as it would be bad if her face got cut. Annoyed, she tells him to shut up. Meanwhile, Zhu continues fighting his enemies. He is attacked and realizes that those three bastards have excellent teamwork, using short and long weapons, making the situation quite challenging. The old man approaches again, saying time's up, and uses his skill. Lin, startled, sees multiple spears and opponents closing in around him. He thinks it's too late to dodge and that he can only use his rage. Then, he activates his rage. The old man asks why he suddenly became stronger. Xiu replies, "Come at me," and uses his explosive Pear Blossom Storm skill, attacking and sending the old man flying. A notification of the elimination arrives. One opponent is terrified, while another activates his Flame of Fury skill. The protagonist asks if that's a fire technique, saying he knows one too. He uses his 100 Birds Turning to Phoenix skill, unleashing flames. Another elimination notification appears. Another enemy tries to use a skill to attack, but Xiu blocks and counters, taking him down. Yet another notification of elimination arrives. He comments that it's done. Meanwhile, on the other side, Luo is still fighting. The leader says she's doing well, but after his companions eliminate the boy, she'll be doomed. Lin approaches, leaping onto the leader and attacking him. He tells the leader to open his eyes and see where his companions are. The leader responds that those three are just trash, but claims he can handle the two of them alone. He activates his thunder skill. The protagonist says he'll leave it to him and moves closer, taunting the leader to catch him. Xiu attacks Kong with his spear, and a new elimination notification appears. He approaches Luo, asking if she's okay, and she responds that she is. Xiu pulls a bottle from his bag and tells her to drink, assuring her she doesn't need to worry since he's never used that bottle before. Luo comments that she never expected him to become so strong so quickly. Lin replies that he's a natural genius. He asks where she's heading, and she replies that she's going to the Saint territory. The protagonist asks her to wait, pointing out that he helped her, and his energy is depleted. He suggests they rest a bit before continuing. Noticing that she keeps walking, he runs after her, asking her to slow down. As they enter a forest, Xiu remarks that he's finally found a more normal-looking forest, and that the Saint territory seems to be ahead. A voice suddenly interrupts, saying they won't let him enter the academy so easily. They look around. Zhang asks why they're doing this. Kong replies that the academy announced a test for newcomers to ensure only the strongest pass, and insinuates that eliminating the competition would be more efficient. Zhang asks if he intends to eliminate them. Kong says they're classmates and insists he just wants them to return to where they came from. Qinfeng asks if that isn't the same as eliminating them. Luo asks if Xiu knows Kong. The protagonist responds that he does and, walking forward, greets Kong, commenting that he never expected the place to be so lively. Zhang perks up upon seeing him. Xiu states that he's also a freshman at the academy, asking if it seems like he'll have to turn back as well. Zhang says she didn't know he was a freshman and reveals that she is too. Kong remarks that Xiu is quite clever and notes that the girl beside him isn't bad either. He says he'll let them pass if she agrees to be his girlfriend, asking what they think of the idea. Luo draws her sword. Kong mocks her, but she attacks, slicing his fingers. The bald man comments that she's rank 4. The leader notes that she's injured and insists they can't let her leave like this. Xiu intervenes, asking if they've heard of the Black Tiger Gang. Kong retorts, asking what difference it makes if they have, and whether they think he'd be scared because of that. Lin replies that those who offended the Black Tiger Gang have disappeared from this world. The bald man is left speechless, and others in the group murmur that it's best not to provoke them. Kong says he doesn't believe it. The protagonist asks if he wants to test it, and encourages him to go ahead. The leader calls Xiu brave, grabs his weapon, and declares he'll try. Xiu approaches with his fist ready, and warns that if he does, he'll get hurt. He uses his explosive fist style to strike the leader. The bald man exclaims that Shu is asking for his elimination. Kong orders everyone to attack and eliminate them. Suddenly, a weapon touches Kong's shoulder. He turns and sees Luo, who tells him that if they take a single step, she'll eliminate him. One of the group members pleads for them to let it go. Shu gives them 3 minutes, asking if they'll leave or prefer to be eliminated. Zhang grips her weapon, as do the others in her team. Kong hesitates and finally orders his group to retreat. They move away. Zhang thanks Yu and explains who the troublemaker was, saying that without him, they wouldn't have known what to do. She also thanks the girl with him. Lin replies that they already know each other and there's no need to thank him. He asks if continuing along the path will take them to their destination. Luo confirms that it will. Zhang asks if she can join them. The protagonist agrees, commenting that they can look out for each other along the way. She expresses her gratitude. Later, many people gather around a campfire in the area. Shu, his mouth full, remarks that it seems like everyone there is heading to the academy, asking if anyone knows how many freshmen the academy accepts each year. Zhang says she doesn't know but mentions that they and 5 others were selected, along with students from another school. Lin deduces that this means 10 freshmen were selected, and notes that at Starshine, it's just him. The leader asks what the problem is, pointing out that he's far stronger than all the others. She mentions that she heard this generation has a genius from Sky Academy who reached rank 5 at just 18 years old. Luo adds that his name is Xing, and that he's from the same academy as her. Everyone is impressed to learn she's a student there. Lei remarks that she's incredible, and that ordinary people can't get into Sky Academy. In another location, many people are gathered. The protagonist observes and notes that there are over 1,000 freshmen, even the lowest among them being Marshall Peak rank 3, all around 18 years old. Zhang points to the end of the path, a cliff, and asks where the entrance to the territory is. Lin replies that there's probably a teleportation mechanism, but realizes he guessed wrong when a dirigible approaches and positions itself nearby. Chung disembarks, introducing himself as the first-year instructor of the academy and responsible for escorting them there. He announces that he has something to share. The academy lies at the end of the elimination path, and the test was designed to disqualify the weak. The crowd becomes angry, shouting that they risked their lives because of the academy's lies. Chung asserts that the academy doesn't accept trash, and that the weak must be disqualified. A boy tries to attack him but is struck down and eliminated with a single blow, falling to the ground. His friends, stunned, immediately back off. Chung calls his team and orders them to attack any disobedient individuals. The attacks begin. The instructor warns that anyone who doesn't follow the rules will meet the same fate. He instructs everyone to bring out their admission notices, tear off the back layer, and apply it to themselves, explaining that this will be the final task of the test. Lin mutters that it could have been something else but doesn't finish his sentence. Chung announces that anyone who collects 3 admission notices will qualify to board the dirigible. Shu applies his notice and remarks that he already expected this. The instructor declares the trial has begun and wishes everyone good luck. A large man tries to take Luo's notice, but she calls him trash. He attempts to touch her but is struck and sent flying. The crowd watches in frustration. Luo hands notices to the protagonist, but he declines, saying he doesn't need them. She then gives the notices to Lei, who is overjoyed. A boy tries to attack Zhang to steal her notice, but Lei intervenes, saying she has enough for all 3 of them. Zhang asks where she got them, and Lei explains that Luo gave them to her. Zhang refuses the notices, insisting Lei give them to Feng and Jiang instead, as she wants to earn her own. Kong approaches, commenting that Jiang seems to have many notices and orders her to hand them over or face elimination. Zhang blocks his attack. Meanwhile, Luo and another boy are already nearing the dirigible. The instructor, surprised, remarks that they were quick and confirms that those with 3 notices can board. They hand him their notices. Zhou appears, saying it's been a long time since he's seen Luo. She doesn't respond, leaving him hanging. He remarks that she still doesn't like talking but says they'll meet again at the academy. The instructor tells her she can board now, but Luo replies that she'll wait for her friends. Meanwhile, Kong continues trying to take Zhang's notices. Jiang calls out to her. Shu intervenes, attacking Kong with his 100-bird skill. Kong tries to dodge, but Lin takes advantage of the moment to grab his and his team's notices. They continue attacking using the snow step without trace skill. Lin comments that with Luo's notices, they should now have enough for everyone. Zhang thanks him. Kong returns, ordering his team to reclaim the notices. The protagonist remarks that ever since their encounter in the forest, he's grown to hate them. One of Kong's team members hesitates but is quickly eliminated with a single strike. The leader observes and comments on how strong Shu is. Another opponent steps forward, saying he'll handle it. Lin taunts him, asking if someone so weak can wield a spear, and dares him to prove his skills. The opponent replies that he'll take Lin's spear but is eliminated as well. Another is defeated right after. Kong orders his team to attack together. The group moves in, using their skills. Xiu calmly remarks that it doesn't matter how many approach, they won't be able to defeat him. He activates his judgment skill, sending his enemies flying with his spear and telling them to be more careful in their next life. Kong tries to plead, saying they no longer want the notices and begging for mercy, but Xiu mercilessly eliminates them. Several elimination notifications appear. The surrounding onlookers comment that he is terrifying, having easily defeated 5 people, and acknowledge him as a very strong martial artist, warning others not to provoke him. Zhang and her team approach to thank him, but he responds that they don't need to worry. Meanwhile, he notices Luo and asks if she was waiting for him, but Luo simply walks on. On the dirigible, the instructor congratulates the survivors for passing the final test and announces that they are now officially qualified to study at the academy. He informs them that from now on, they are classmates and that academy rules prohibit eliminating fellow classmates. Lei remarks that just a while ago, he made them fight each other, and now he's acting like a good person. Chung explains that it will take approximately 3 hours to reach the academy, and that they can rest on the dirigible. The protagonist comments that the dirigible doesn't even have windows, seemingly to prevent them from knowing the academy's exact location. He asks Luo if she knows much about the academy. Luo replies that on the surface, there are the 4 universities of Nan, which are the best, but in reality, the Territory Academy is the most advanced. She notes that its instructors are scientifically trained and all high-quality martial artists. Xu agrees, remarking that this is evident in how they treat new students, where even geniuses from other schools are considered trash and can be eliminated easily. He reflects on how many martial artists he eliminated and how many had their admission notices stolen yet survived to tell the tale. Upon arrival, the dirigible lands, and Chung announces their destination. Everyone disembarks, and the instructor welcomes them. A massive bird approaches, and the crowd is awestruck to recognize it as a rank 9 phoenix. Chung reassures them, explaining that it's their ally. Xu observes the creature and thinks it's one of the 12 most terrifying evolved beasts left on Earth, fitting for one of the most mysterious and powerful academies. Chung asks everyone to gather for data collection. The analyzer greets them and instructs them to line up for scanning. The freshmen approach the machine. Lin comments that it seems like they'll part ways there. Luo responds that the academy isn't that big. Xu reflects on her response, thinking they will meet again, or perhaps it's an invitation to seek her out when he's free. Zhang urges them to hurry up. Xu says he's on his way. As he approaches, the analyzer introduces itself as Nan and informs him that it will be his instructor from that moment forward. Lin notices that the analyzer cannot evaluate his combat ability, deducing that it must be extremely powerful. The instructor shows the building assigned to Class 10, explaining that students simply need to insert their cards into the desk device to register. He outlines the daily lessons: basic theoretical knowledge, simulated practice, mech operation, and special martial artist training. He mentions that a class representative will be elected to manage certain responsibilities and asks for recommendations. Xu asks what the benefits of being a representative are. Nan explains that the representative holds the key to the training room, maintains the equipment, can train at any time, and receives 500 points per month as a reward. The students are impressed. The instructor asks everyone to take their seats and announces that the candidate with the most votes will become the Class 10 representative. After the vote, Xu discovers he received 5 votes and will be the representative. Some students protest, claiming it's unfair because he knows the voters. The instructor asks what they consider fair. They suggest that the representative should be the strongest. Nan comments that a battle would take too long and suggests deciding with the strength testing machine. Whoever has the strongest punch will win. Everyone agrees. The red-haired student goes first, preparing himself and punching the machine, registering 9,800 kilograms. The crowd is impressed. The instructor comments that it's not bad. Ping interrupts Lin, saying he's too weak. Lin tells him not to worry and asks if he'll have to pay if the machine breaks. The instructor assures him he won't. Ping laughs, calling him stupid for worrying about breaking the machine. Then, Xiu steps forward and uses his Tiger Force Fist technique. The impact is so strong that it destroys the machine. Ping, dumbfounded, asks if Xiu is even human. Nan suspects that the boy must have secretly used martial techniques, but even so, the machine shouldn't have been destroyed so easily, and his power shouldn't be underestimated. Zhang shouts that she knew he would be number 1. The instructor declares that, unless there are objections, Xiu will be the Class 10 representative, adding that he just needs to scan his card to access the school's website. which contains his profile and a map. Wrapping up the session, he announces that they will meet at 6 a.m. Zhang asks where the dormitory is. Nan explains that the academy doesn't provide accommodations and that students need to use points to rent rooms, choosing what they want from the registration office. Outraged, the students complain about having to pay rent. In another room at the university, Zhu is sitting on a sofa, commenting that the environment is really different and worth spending points on. He accesses the school's website, exploring maps, shops, combat rankings, and point missions. While reviewing the missions, he notices there are many strange options. He discovers the exchange center, where items can be sold for points, and remembers that he collected many materials from evolved beasts along the way. The next day, as Zhu walks, people observe and whisper, commenting that he hasn't picked up his uniform yet, seems naive, and that this year's freshmen are weak. The vendor asks if he wants to redeem his uniform or trade something. Zhu replies that he wants to sell something. The vendor clarifies that trades can't be made for coins. Placing an item on the counter, Lin asks how many points it's worth. The vendor is stunned to see a rank 4 leech hide and values it at 10,000 points. The crowd is shocked. The protagonist reveals he has more, presenting a salt crystal. The vendor says it's worth 100,000 points. The onlookers are even more astonished, noting that he pulled out many high-quality items at once and seems incredibly lucky. Xu reveals even more materials and asks the vendor to evaluate them. The vendor, incredulous, identifies the meat of a rank 6 evolved beast and asks how Xu obtained it, suspecting he killed the monster himself. The bystanders begin speculating that Xu might be a genius from a prominent family, amassing treasures like the rank 4 tyrannosaur hide, salt crystal, and rank 6 evolved beast meat. The vendor explains that although valuable, the items are small and offers 500,000 points for them, bringing the total to 610,000 points with the other trades. Xu thanks him and asks if they accept martial arts scrolls. The vendor explains that the academy produces many scrolls, so they don't accept them. Lin says it's fine but mentions wanting to trade a diamond technique he found before arriving. The vendor offers a rank 6 crystal for 80,000 points, deducting it from Xu's total. While walking, the protagonist sighs, complaining about the lack of excitement. A voice interrupts, commenting that this is the perfect place to rob and eliminate people. Nakajima introduces himself, saying he saw Xu trade many points and came specifically to find him. Xu asks how Nakajima plans to take his points without a card reader there. Nakajima explains that the card has a transfer function. Understanding the situation, Lin asks how it would feel if Nakajima's group had to transfer their points to him instead. Nakajima, irritated, accuses Xu of arrogance for suggesting such a thing. When Nakajima tries to attack, Xu uses his snow step without trace technique to evade and move out of the way. Enraged, Nakajima uses his snake fist technique. Xu, already prepared, counters before the attack lands, injuring Nakajima's arm. Nakajima orders his companions to take him to the training room. Xu, however, blocks their way, demanding 1,000 points from each of them as compensation. When they refuse, he threatens to break all their arms. Desperate, they agree. After transferring the points, Xu thanks them and walks away. Furious, Nakajima vows revenge and declares he'll spend 5,000 points to hire a third-year student to harm Xu and Luo. Meanwhile, Xu invites Luo to go out and eat something after training. Inside, Luo is meditating. When she finishes, she finds a table full of food. Xu remarks that since they arrived, all they've eaten is terrible beast meat. Luo notes that the feast must have cost at least 100 points and asks where he got so many. The protagonist teases her, saying he'll tell her if she gives him a kiss on the cheek. Annoyed, Luo draws her sword and challenges Xu to repeat the provocation. He steps back, insisting he was just joking, and asks why she always carries a long sword. She counters his teasing, asking who he thinks he's calling Big Brother. The protagonist kneels and says it's okay, asking not to be called older sister. Luo kicks him, causing an impact. Then, with her sword in hand, she challenges him to a duel to test his strength. Xu retorts that she has already bathed and asks if she still wants to train, wondering if she will act like her master, using sparring as an excuse to hit him, and reflecting on why the girls around him are so violent. The girl accuses him of getting distracted during sparring, points her sword, and says he's asking for a beating. Lin steps back with a wound on his mouth. Luo, confused, asks when he got injured. The protagonist explains a previous situation that left him with minor injuries. The girl tosses him a remedy, instructing him to take 2 pills daily to heal scars and wounds. Xu says he's not sick and doesn't need the medicine. Luo retorts, pointing to her head, saying he's sick there, and tells him to rest well for tonight's fight. He wonders if she likes him or not. Elsewhere, he sits with his eyes closed. marveling at the incredible sensation of energy flowing endlessly into his body. As he continues absorbing it, his experience points increase, but he feels the rank 6 energy is overwhelmingly strong, almost tearing his body apart. He realizes that a martial artist's body is like a container. It must grow stronger to hold more energy and increase combat ability. Observing Luo jump over a wall, he wonders if she's sneaking out for a secret rendezvous. Leaning by the window, he gets discouraged, thinking he should focus on cultivation instead. In another setting, Nakajima asks if Kaito could help them. Kaito replies that he already asked Chuan to find the senior. Chuan appears at the door, saying the senior has been invited. As Kaito approaches, he's called an idiot by a freshman. Someone kicks him, causing him to fall to the ground, and he angrily demands to know who dared kick him. Luo replies, "Freshman." The burly man grumbles about freshman again, declaring he'll crush her regardless. As he moves to attack, Luo strikes with her sword, warning that any movement will end him. Nakajima reminds her that the territory forbids killing, but Luo taunts them to test whether it's true. The burly man recognizes her as the genius freshman of the year, and others whisper that she's from Sky City. Nakajima, realizing she's from the Luo family, kneels and pleads for mercy, swearing never to provoke her again. Luo watches, and then walks away. Kaito, sitting on the ground in relief, mutters about how terrifying her aura is, questioning why they provoked her. He explains they were planning to rob a freshman, and didn't realize she was connected to him. In Class 10, Shu observes and calls them a group of idiots. The teacher praises Yu's accomplishments, and asks if he still has friends from the second year. Lin confirms, mentioning he met 3 familiar friends at the exchange center who offered him help despite his protests. Nan hands him a notice, informing him about an upcoming freshman conference in a week, where the top 5 will be selected to compete with other classes. The students assure him they'll work hard and won't disappoint. In the training hall, everyone is busy practicing. While Shu trains, Ping approaches, challenging him to a spar. Zhang asks what Ping is doing, and Ping replies, "It's nothing, just a sparring challenge with the class representative." He questions if Shu dares to fight, suspecting Zhu used tricks to break the machine yesterday, and noticing his aura seems weak. Lin says he's so weak yet dares to fight. Ping, irritated, attacks him and says he's asking for his end. The protagonist blocks the attack, saying Ping is too weak, and that it's now his turn. He then approaches with his pear blossom technique. Ping tries to block but fails and is sent flying. His classmates rush over to help him. Zhang calls them shameless and summons Jiang to assist Lin. Xiu tells them not to intervene, saying it's enough for him to deal with these weaklings. He thinks he can use these bastards to demonstrate his power as the class representative. Ping and his group approach to attack Xiu, but as they get close, Xiu counters with a series of strikes, sending them flying. Xiu steps forward and asks if they still want to fight. Ping wipes his face, stares at Xiu, apologizes, and admits defeat. Zhang says he knew Xiu could handle everything on his own. Lin shouts, asking if anyone else is dissatisfied, and says that just because they were assigned to Class 10 doesn't mean they should slack off. He tells them that if they don't want to embarrass themselves during the freshman competition, they need to train hard. In the gravity room, Zhang mentions they'll need to swipe their cards to enter. The protagonist reflects that gravity training is unique because the body's cells are in a state of intense consumption in the room. Using cultivation techniques to absorb source energy there, or engaging in other training is highly beneficial for strengthening the body. They enter the room. Qinfeng remarks that it's his first time seeing something like this. Zhang notes that using the gravity room costs points. Qinfeng says he doesn't have enough points for the training. Xu asks if they still have the skin and flesh of the vine beast, noting that such items are valuable. Besides exchanging them for points, the official website has many posted missions that offer points as rewards. Xu adds that those wanting to stay in the gravity room should start with the simplest level, twice the gravity. Everyone is delighted and thanks him. They swipe the card, and the 2 times gravity training begins. Inside, they struggle to endure. Lei, sitting on the floor, asks if this is really just twice the gravity. Lin thinks that under the effects of gravity, the body's cells seem to be in constant wear. Using cultivation techniques to absorb energy from crystal sources is most effective under such conditions. They begin meditating. After an hour, one student says they can't take it anymore. Ping observes and thinks that it's already been an hour, and the representative still looks relaxed. Others rise, saying they can't go on, lamenting the significant gap in ability despite all being freshmen. After 3 hours, Xu realizes he's the only one left, and wonders why not try 3 times gravity. He swipes his card for the 3 times gravity setting, thinking he spent a lot of points but that it's worth it. Afterward, he leaves the room. Zhang notes his exit and asks if he's okay. Lin replies there's no reason anything should be wrong and instructs them to continue training, saying he has something to do. Qinfeng remarks that Xu stayed in the room for 5 hours and came out as if nothing happened, adding that it's just as expected of him. At the exchange center, the protagonist sighs, noting that 80,000 points for a rank 6 crystal isn't even enough for many exchanges. He realizes he can't keep spending points recklessly and needs to find a way to earn more. Observing the tallest building, he deduces it must be the arena tower mentioned on the school map. If he ranks, he could earn points daily, so he decides to check it out. The arena tower has 100 floors, and the academy ranks students according to their combat ability. If someone defeats the host of the first floor, they become part of the academy's top 100. Rankings are re-evaluated weekly, and floors are reassigned. To incentivize both the host and challengers, the academy awards different point rewards based on the floor. There's also a weekly challenge leaderboard where the top 10 earn additional points. People notice that Luo defeated the host of the 17th floor, remarking that this year's freshmen are exceptionally strong. And they heard that this generation of freshmen is full of geniuses from Sky, so it's no surprise that children from these great families managed to enter the academy's top 100. They notice the protagonist arriving and comment that freshmen are bold and just need a beating, predicting he'll probably be defeated on the first floor. After entering, Xu observes as the announcer declares the second-year student as the winner and calls Lin from the first year against Ola from the second year. Xu remarks how quickly it's his turn and wonders if no one else is challenging. The crowd comments on another freshman stepping up, wondering if he'll cry after being beaten. The announcer notes that he's only a rank 3 fighter, while the previous fighter, who just lost, was rank 4. The announcer finds it odd since the freshman's combat ability device didn't even reach level 3. His opponent asks if he'll fight with a weapon or bare fists. Lin replies that it's only the first floor, so there's no need to use a weapon to defeat him. His opponent calls him arrogant and attacks with the breaking fist technique. The protagonist dodges and notices that his opponent also knows how to use burst. Ola questions his dodging skills, preparing another attack. Xu approaches with his martial technique, the monster steps. The opponent wonders how someone carrying such a large box can move so swiftly and demands he stop dodging. Lin reassures him it's fine, demonstrating his own burst technique with the explosive fist style. The crowd is outraged that a freshman already knows such a technique. The announcer comments that the freshman's burst is different. The protagonist continues attacking with the Tiger Force fist. The two clash, fist against fist, but Ola can't hold out and is sent flying, creating a massive impact. Xu is declared the winner. Lin mocks him for being so weak. The crowd is astonished that he defeated Ola with just one punch, and the announcer questions if the freshman is too strong, or if the combat ability device is broken. On the second floor, Xu defeats his opponent and is declared the winner. On the third floor, he wins again. The announcer is surprised that he defeated the fourth floor host with his bare fists, questioning if the combat ability device must indeed be malfunctioning. On the fifth floor, a girl asks if he wants to fight hand-to-hand and what weapon he's carrying, telling him to use it because otherwise, he won't be able to defeat her. Xu says he uses a spear and warns her to be careful because his spear is very strong. He attacks with the 100 birds technique, sending her flying. On the sixth floor, Lin wins again. On the seventh floor, he emerges victorious once more. The announcer is utterly shocked, questioning if he's truly a freshman as he reaches the 20th floor in one go. He announces the next fight, Buck versus the protagonist. Xu thinks that since Buck is rank 5, it will be a tough fight, especially since Luo lost to him. Buck is shocked that the protagonist reached the 20th floor and recently defeated a freshman, asking how long he thinks he can last. Lin replies that he can last a long time. The fight begins. The crowd comments on the live broadcast of the arena tower, noting that someone has reached the 20th floor. Xing asks if the challenger is from their class, and his classmate replies that he's from class 10. Xing can't believe it, thinking a class 10 student must have weak combat abilities, yet he reached the 20th floor of the arena tower on the second day. His classmate asks if he knows him. Xing replies that he's a friend of a friend. Meanwhile, in the arena, Xiu reflects that Buck looks relaxed, but he's clearly exhausted. However, he has discovered Buck's footwork pattern and attacks with the 100 birds technique. Buck scoffs, saying it's useless and that the attack won't land, using his martial footwork technique to evade. Lin retorts that Buck isn't the only one with such techniques and counters with the snow steps. The opponent is confused about how Lin predicted his evasive movements and is hit by the spear. Embarrassed at being injured by a freshman in front of so many spectators, Buck charges with his attack tool, declaring it's the end. The protagonist blocks with his spear, narrowly dodges another attack, and thinks Buck is incredibly strong. The crowd can't believe Buck was struck by a freshman. The opponent declares he'll now fight seriously and puts some holes in the protagonist's body, launching another attack. But Xiu blocks with his spear, holding firmly, yet he ends up being hit, thinking that the energy from the swing of his opponent's weapon can still hurt him. Buck says he'll see how many moves Xiu can dodge, thinking it's been a long time since he faced such a strong opponent. The freshman is then frozen. Onlookers comment on the incredible power. Lin manages to break free from the ice, thinking that the feeling of risking his life in a fight is exhilarating. As he moves in to attack, Buck considers that the freshman is much weaker than him, but wonders why he has such fearless determination and an intense desire to fight. Buck realizes it would be shameful to lose, and decides to end the battle now, using his martial technique, Ice Spear Explosion. The protagonist counters with his 100 Birds technique, emitting flames, but he notices the attack is heading straight for him, and believes he won't be able to block it. An explosion occurs. Frozen Zhu says it's so cold and that he can't stay frozen. His only option is to use his trump card, Fury. Buck wonders why his victory hasn't been announced. Zhu replies that if he can't fight within 10 seconds, it will be declared a win for Buck. Buck says it's simple. He just needs to push the ice out of the arena. But then the ice begins to crack. Buck is outraged at the sight. Zhu melts the ice with his 100 Birds technique again. The crowd is amazed that he can still use martial techniques after being frozen. Lin reflects that he used Fury along with Phoenix Fire to melt the ice. He then approaches with his 100 Birds technique, confronting the Phoenix, emitting numerous flames, and striking his opponent. Buck can't understand how Zhu melted the ice so quickly. The protagonist closes in with his spear and bids him farewell. Buck tries to block, but Zhu strikes again, defeating him. The announcer declares Zhu the winner once more. The crowd comments that it's insane how strong this year's freshmen are. The announcer asks if he plans to challenge the 21st floor. Lin says no, and that he'll challenge it another day. He walks away, noticing that he's now ranked first, wondering if it's because he defeated the master of the 20th floor and will earn 1,000 points as a daily reward. A boy questions how someone like him was assigned to Class 10. Ching replies that this guy is interesting and worth keeping an eye on. As Lin walks, he thinks about how that bastard Fury's side effects are leaving him utterly exhausted. A voice approaches, commenting that it looks like he used up all his energy in the arena and complimenting his performance, but asking why he's acting like a dog. They mention that Buck fought continuously against 2 freshmen, was exhausted, and only won because he took advantage of the situation. The protagonist asks why, even after his fight, his opponent insisted on teaching him a lesson. The boy replies that, as someone older, it's his job to teach a lesson. He says he's already investigated all the freshmen and discovered their histories, but Xiu is someone with no history, just from Starshine. Xiu responds that he has no story, and they've made him their target to vent their frustrations, asking how they're so sure he lacks experience. One of the other team members grabs his shirt and asks why his friend is wasting time with Xiu, saying he made him lose 5,000 points, but someone grabs his arm. The boy demands to know who it is. Luo tells him to let Xiu go. The exhausted protagonist says he already told them he has a story. Luo twists the boy's arm and asks if he didn't hear her tell him to let go. Billy steps forward to attack, saying she's asking for trouble. The girl replies that no, they're the ones asking for trouble. Xiu watches and thinks he never imagined she'd be so strong even without using weapons. Luo continues attacking them with explosive and shattering punches, sending them flying. Lin observes and asks if she can also use burst, noting that her power seems even stronger than his. The 3 injured boys run away. The protagonist thanks her and asks how she knew he was there. Luo says she saw the video from the arena tower and came to find him, noting that he stayed in the gravity room, and then went to the arena to challenge, asking if he's not afraid of being beaten to a pulp. She then asks if he can walk on his own. Xiu sighs and says he's exhausted but needs to rest a bit to recover, thinking that this girl, even though fierce, still cares about him. The girl picks him up on her back and says she'll carry him. Lin protests, saying he's a man and can't let a girl carry him. Luo tells him not to overthink it, saying she's just returning a favor. As she continues walking, people notice and ask if they're a couple, commenting that the boy deserves a beating for letting a girl carry him. But Luo keeps walking. The protagonist thinks she looks so beautiful from the side, with a light fragrance emanating from her, and notes how good she smells. Then he kisses her on the cheek. Shocked, he wonders what he just did, thinking he's done for this time. He apologizes, saying it wasn't intentional. She asks how he dared to kiss her and throws him to the ground. Furious, she approaches. Xiu, lying on the ground, admits his mistake and begs for mercy. Elsewhere, the girl attacks him with her breaking explosion fist, sending him flying and telling him not to rely on what he sees, but to use his energy to feel. He, lying on the ground, complains that it hurts. Luo throws another punch, and he wonders if this is really a girl's punch, deciding to use energy to sense her moves while dodging with the snow steps technique. The girl notices his significant improvement, thinking that when she first met him in Area A20, he hadn't even become a martial artist yet, and in just a few months, he's reached rank 3, successfully joined the academy, and defeated a rank 5 on his second day. Lin steps forward, thinking it's his turn now, announcing that he'll show her the broken and styled fist. Luo watches. The protagonist asks why she's not reacting, saying his fist is about to hit her. He tries to stop his punch but fails, accidentally touching her chest. He apologizes, asking why she didn't dodge, and nervously says it wasn't intentional, begging her not to hit his face. But she keeps hitting him. Xiu mutters that this is domestic violence. The next day, Zhang asks what happened to him. Lei jokes, asking if it was Miss Luo. Jiang advises not to use force when dealing with girls, offering to share his experience. Lei pulls Jiang's ear, asking if he has a lot of experience. Jiang replies that he was just joking with the class representative. Ping congratulates Xu for taking first place in the tower and apologizes for underestimating him in the past. A girl asks about the academy tower, and a student confirms that the representative reached the 21st floor, adding that he's so incredible he might surpass Zhou. Ping asks Xu to teach him how he cultivated. Lin tells them to go to the gravity room at 2x gravity and train for 5 hours with weightlifting. In the gravity room, they struggle with the training. Ping says that at 2x gravity he can't even move a finger, wondering how the representative does it. Noticing that Xu can easily swing his spear, the others complain about the pain. Xu notes that 5 hours have passed and asks if anyone plans to continue. The group makes excuses, saying they forgot something or need to use the restroom, and leave. No one remains. Xu remarks that they can still walk and run and decides they'll train at 3x gravity tomorrow. A voice announces that the class representative, Miss Luo, has come to see him. He asks why she's there. She explains that her card is out of points. Lin wonders if she ran out of points and came to find him, thinking he's not her husband. People appear at the door, teasingly asking if she's his wife. The protagonist tells them to shut up, asking if they have too much free time and why they're not doing 3x gravity training. They quickly reply that it's unnecessary and shut the door. Xiu starts training at 5x gravity. Lin falls to the ground, asking if she's trying to kill him. Luo replies that it's just 5x gravity, questioning if he can't handle it. In year 1, class 1, in another gravity room, Zhou asks if a student has seen Luo. The student replies that she's in room 10. Zhou wonders if she went to see that guy again. The student asks if he wants help teaching the boy a lesson. Zhou says not to act hastily and to first find an opportunity to gather some people to teach Class 10 a lesson, specifically targeting their representative. Meanwhile, in the gravity room, Xiu thinks that 4x gravity is manageable, but 5x gravity has already exceeded his limit. Luo calls him weak and pulls a lever, introducing a 100,000-volt training session. Lin notices it's not only 4x gravity but also two 10,000-volt currents, and he exclaims that she's not human. Luo replies that her home has a similar gravity room and that she has been training like this since she was young, asking if he just said she's not human. Embarrassed, the protagonist tries to find an excuse, but she straps the currents to him. Xu, wrapped in the currents, starts screaming in pain. Zhang observes from outside and comments that they're fighting again in the room. Jiang says he feels sorry for him, adding that, as expected, the prettier a girl is, the scarier she turns out to be. Lei asks if Luo is scary, and Jiang replies that she's not scary at all. Lei pulls his ear and asks if he's saying she isn't beautiful. Jiang apologizes and says she's the scariest. Lei asks what part of her is scary. Inside the room, Lin complains about the lightning, saying it hurts and that he can smell burnt flesh. He collapses to the floor, thinking about the sour feeling and how tired he is, but he notices the shock has increased his experience points. Luo tosses him some crystals, telling him to take them as compensation for using her card's points. The protagonist hesitates, saying he can't accept that, as she can use her points freely. Luo responds that if he doesn't want them, he should return them. Lin quickly replies that of course he wants them, and could never refuse a gift from her. 2 hours later, in the gravity room, Xu is once again being electrocuted and screaming. More notifications arrive, stating that he has leveled up, gained new skills, and earned the title of Rank 4 Martial Artist. He tells the system to allocate all 20 potential points to his physique and wonders about the use of his devouring skill. Checking his stats, he feels satisfied with the results. As he walks away, he reflects that the freshman competition is approaching and that tonight they will learn martial techniques before heading to the exchange center. Outside, a voice yells for everyone to stop. Ping asks what's going on. Park says it's nothing serious, just that trash from Class 10 isn't allowed to walk there. Ping, injured, argues that the path doesn't belong to Park and is the only way to the exchange center, which they need to use to trade items. Park responds that if they want to use the path, they'll have to crawl under his legs. Suddenly, someone kicks Park between the legs. Lin, who asks if Park doesn't mind. Park cries out in pain, collapsing to the ground, while Class 10 cheers for their representative. Park's allies approach to attack, using wolf fist and golden martial technique. Xiu counters with his explosive and broken fist. The two clash, fist to fist, and Lin injures his opponent's arm. Park attacks from behind with his ability, claiming his palm strike can easily eliminate a rank 3 beast. The protagonist finds it refreshing, and a notification appears detecting an external energy attack. It states that the devouring skill only slightly increases his experience points because the opponent's attack is too weak. Another notification explains that the skill isn't bad. The opponent's attack is just trash. Park attempts to hit him, but Lin asks what he's trying to do. Park, outraged, asks if he's okay. Xiu strikes him, declaring that it's because his skill is trash, and Park collapses. An Academy staff member intervenes, telling them to stop fighting because it's forbidden. Park recognizes the staff member as his teacher and explains that while they were provoked first, they'll accept the consequences, urging the teacher to take him to the medical room quickly. Ping thanks the class representative. Lin becomes curious about how the conflict started. Ping explains that he's unsure but recounts the events. The protagonist listens quietly. In the medical room, the teacher asks who told them to provoke Class 10. Park admits he simply doesn't like them. The teacher calls them idiots, revealing that the person who fought them is currently ranked number 1 among the freshmen. The group is outraged, saying they didn't know and blaming Xiao for lying to them. In another location, Xiu mentions wanting the card and thinks he also owes this wind god kick, reflecting that he has recently been forced to train his lightning resistance and now knows how to use burst. He notes that in 2 days, the freshman competition will take place, and tonight they'll learn new martial arts techniques together. While walking, Joe calls out to him. Lin asks why. Joe states that defeating Buck shows he's not weak, but that doesn't mean he can be with Luo, as they're from 2 different worlds. Joe warns him to leave her alone if he's smart. The protagonist asks if this is a threat, and accuses Joe of sending Park, who was beaten, after him. Joe denies it's a threat, claiming it's just a fact. He says that after investigating, he found out Lin's parents passed away, and he comes from a poor family. Unless Lin reaches rank 9 as a martial artist, he won't be suitable for her. Xiu tells Joe to mind his own business and remarks that in 2 days, the freshman competition will decide things. He warns that if anyone messes with Class 10 again, they'll regret it. Joe's companions call Lin arrogant, but Joe assures them he won't be arrogant for long, as he plans to teach him a lesson. As Lin walks away, he reflects on a family capable of nurturing such powerful martial artists, concluding that the Luo family must be extraordinary. He questions why he's even thinking about this, since he doesn't plan to propose to her anyway. Upon entering, Luo approaches him, asking if he's eaten, and saying that what's left is his. Lin mentions hearing that after the freshman competition, students will have 2 training areas to choose from. He asks if she's decided which one to pick. Luo replies that she'll decide when the time comes. The protagonist wonders when she started talking like that. 2 days later, the arena fills with students, and a teacher announces that the freshman competition will begin shortly and asks everyone to line up. Zhang calls for the representative of Class 10. The teacher introduces Luo as a new transfer student to their class, noting that she was originally part of it. Luo interrupts, saying there's no need for introductions. Nan instructs everyone to get along with her and forbids anyone from intimidating her. The crowd starts chanting her name. The announcer explains that there are 2 fields to choose from for the competition. The class that collects the most crystals will win, earning rewards and special cards. The first area is the Emerald Forest, which, despite containing high-level evolved beasts, isn't very dangerous. The second area, G17 Ruins, is infested with high-level zombies and terrifying high-level evolved beasts. It's a ruined city and very dangerous. Each class must send 7 participants. Ping comments that the ruins are extremely dangerous. Lin asks if he knows the location. Ping explains that a terrible virus once emerged in that area. Some martial artists were sent on a cleanup mission, but were all infected, turning into high-level zombies, and all the beasts there are rank 4 or higher. The crowd becomes frightened. The teacher asks Xiu to allocate members for the G17 Ruins and the Emerald Forest. The protagonist tells everyone to quiet down as he assigns the teams. When he asks Luo if she wants to go to the ruins, she responds that it's obvious. Xiu then asks who else is willing to join them. emphasizing that the G17 ruins are dangerous, but that high risk means high rewards. He assures them that no one will be forced to go. Zhang volunteers to join. Lin decides on the 7 who will go to the ruins while the rest head to the Emerald Forest, encouraging them to work hard and achieve good results. They assure him they will. The plane departs. On board, Xu notices something wrong with Ping and asks what it is. Ping replies that it's nothing. Others tease him, saying he's scared and that Class 10 is full of cowards. Ping admits that he's been to the G17 ruins before. Zhang is surprised. Ping, distressed, explains that he used to have a bad temper and would easily get hot-headed. He once made a bet with his classmates, claiming they wouldn't dare train in the G17 ruins. In the end, his competitiveness drove him to go with some friends. On the first day, all his friends were bitten by an evolved beast, got infected, and suffered terribly. He was the only one who escaped. Lin explains that his friends mutated after being bitten by the evolved beast, asking if the beast carries a virus. Ping confirms, saying that if bitten by an evolved beast, one becomes a zombie within 24 hours. All the students arrive at the G17 ruins and are instructed to gather beneath the airship. They take their positions as the instructor announces an important warning. In addition to zombies, evolved beasts also carry the virus. If bitten by an evolved beast, students must return to the airship within 24 hours to receive treatment and can be saved. The instructor wishes them good luck. The students are shocked to learn that the beasts also carry the virus. The protagonist leads his team along the predetermined path. As they walk, a rank 4 zombie approaches, and Luo quickly attacks it. Lei says it scared her, and thanks Luo. Zhang comments that the zombies are good at hiding in bushes to ambush. Xu wonders how much experience points he'll earn from them. Luo warns everyone to stay cautious. They continue walking. While Lin yawns, a zombie tries to attack him from behind, but he turns and eliminates it with one strike. He notes that it's a rank 4 zombie but gives less experience. Placing his hand on his head, he sighs and thinks another one is already approaching. He attacks it. The zombie begins screaming. Ping warns that letting it scream will attract more zombies. The protagonist replies that he's doing it on purpose to lure them all out at once. Several zombies approach. Ping, panicked, says they should escape. Xu moves toward the zombies, thinking they're all his experience points. Luo, being more active, fights them too. When asked why she's so proactive, she responds, saying she doesn't understand why Lin is always rushing toward danger. He teases her, saying she's worried about him. She tells him to shut up. The rest of the team decides to help. Qin Feng comments that the two act like a couple. Zhang warns to be careful not to let Luo hear that. Meanwhile, the protagonist uses his 100 birds technique, emitting flames and receiving multiple elimination notifications. The team observes, noting that his technique seems to be getting stronger. Luo also fights the zombies with her skills. Jiang remarks that compared to the class representative, Luo is even stronger and calls them a golden couple. While Ping walks, a zombie approaches to attack him, and he starts screaming, but the zombie is swiftly taken down. Xu tells Ping that if he wants to be eliminated, he should go farther away since they don't need companions who will become a burden. Reflecting on this, Ping runs off, declaring he won't let anyone look down on him. Later, someone comments that this area should have the highest number of evolved beasts, wondering why they haven't encountered any. Lin suggests only one possibility. The area must be home to a very strong beast, and the other evolved beasts don't dare enter. He tells the team to look ahead, as something is approaching. They hear noises. Luo states that it's right in front. Lin responds, noting that the roar is strong and likely from a rank 4 evolved beast. Then, they see it, a rank 5 bull. The protagonist is startled by its rank. The beast charges. Luo attempts to attack but realizes it can't be cut. The bull kicks her, sending her flying. Concerned, Xu rushes to catch her, asking if she's okay. Luo says she's fine and used source energy to dissipate 90% of the impact. The furious bull quickly charges again. Luo pushes Xu aside, telling him to get out of her way. The protagonist warns her to be careful. Luo grabs her sword, evades the bull's attack, and counters with her blade. Xu comments that his little Yue is the strongest. The bull begins stomping the ground furiously. Zhang observes and marvels at her strength, asking how they should approach this. Lin advises staying back and using long-range attacks. The protagonist unleashes his 100 birds technique, saying they'll see how he turns it into roast beef. The team is impressed and declares it's their turn now. They use techniques like Earth Rupture, Crescent Moon Strike, Consecutive Blows, and Firefly Piercer, hitting the beast with multiple attacks and injuring it. The bull rises and charges toward them again, prompting a warning to be cautious. The protagonist leaps and says that if the back of the bull is too tough to cut, he'll simply crush it, attacking the bull with source energy. Luo rushes in and splits it in half. Xu is amazed, asking how she managed it since she just said its skin was resistant. Luo points out that the bull's neck was roasted after his flame attack. Lin jokes, saying it's already been barbecued. A voice approaches, expressing surprise that they actually eliminated their prey. He introduces himself as being from Class 4 of the North Branch and explains that the golden-backed mad bull had run there because they were hunting it. He thanks them and says they'll take the heterocrystal, leaving the other materials, noting that the back of the bull is excellent for crafting weapons. Zhang protests, calling it daylight robbery, yet defends himself, saying they're not just taking the prize, as this was originally their prey. He adds that they had a long battle with the beast and points out a wound on the back hoof caused by his teammate's hammer. Sun retorts, calling them trash from the South Branch. The protagonist mocks them, saying a group of rank 4 warriors surrounded a mad bull and only managed a small scratch, suggesting people might think they were just helping it trim its hooves. He then warns that if they're eliminated in these ruins, does Ya not think the Sanctuary Academy will investigate? Luo unsheathes her sword and points it at one of them. The boy backs away, asking if they're trying to eliminate them. Zhu sarcastically asks what's wrong with eliminating a few bandits and moves in to attack. Ya blocks the strike, and the other two from Class 10 join the fray. Ya calls them lunatic bandits, asking if they think they can steal his heterocrystal. Lin accuses Ya of twisting the truth and demands they leave all the heterocrystals and points behind. Ya, thinking they were just weaklings from Class 10, is shocked by their strength and ferocity. The protagonist attacks with his spear. Ya declares it won't be so easy to take him down, activating his Shadow of the Night ability. Xu taunts him, asking if he disappeared. Ya remarks that the academy won't investigate if a few students are eliminated during training. Lin counters, saying he's still slower than the laser weapon from the gravity room. Ya, surprised, asks how Lin knew he was behind him. The protagonist dismissively replies that Ya doesn't know much and invites him to try his new skill, Thunder of Sener. Ya, frightened, is blasted away with a massive impact. Xu admires the move, proclaiming himself the Lightning King. Meanwhile, Luo is defeating her opponent. The boy panics as her sword approaches his body, and she warns that if he moves, he'll be eliminated. Elsewhere, the others continue fighting. A bald opponent mocks, asking if Xu thinks his hammer is for trimming nails and declaring he'll crush Luo's brain. Just then, a spear strikes, knocking him down along with his hammer. He cries out in pain. Xu quips that he just trimmed the bald guy's foot, asking how it feels. Furious, the bald opponent retaliates with a piercing punch. Lin taunts him, asking if he wants to trade blows, as he's the one asking for it. The two clash, fist to fist, but the bald opponent is sent flying with an injured arm. His allies watch in disbelief as they're defeated. Zhang seizes the opportunity and moves in to finish them off. Ya complains about the pain, admitting they were wrong and begging for mercy. The protagonist says they'll spare them if they hand over all their points and crystals. Ya hesitates, explaining that if they give up all their crystals, their test will end. Xu points his spear at Ya, threatening to eliminate them and take everything if they refuse. Scared, Ya agrees to hand over the crystals and begs not to be eliminated. Zhang remarks in surprise that they had 2 rank 5 crystals, bringing their total to 3, and wonders if there are more to find. Luo points out that since they're in the G17 ruins, everyone must stay focused as there's still a week left, and they can't let their guard down. Lin notices her concern and asks what's wrong. She replies that it feels like someone is watching them. They look around, and Luo orders them to hide quickly. Someone shoots the protagonist in the leg, causing an injury and tearing his pants. He wonders what kind of ability that was and remarks that, luckily, he's wearing battle armor underneath. Otherwise, he would have lost his leg. Another attack follows. Luo says the sniper is in the building and that she'll take care of them. He warns her to be careful. The sniper tells his teammate to stay alert, saying someone is running toward the building and orders Team 2 to keep attacking. Zhang asks if Xu is okay. He replies that he's fine, instructing them to stay put while he goes to help Luo. As he runs, multiple attacks target him, but he dodges them, determined to eliminate those guys. Qinfeng remarks that they really are like a couple. Ping asks what they should do. She responds that Xu knows what to do and warns that leaving their position will only make things worse. Qinfeng asks why so many are targeting them. She explains that this place has all kinds of people, including those who eliminate others just to survive. Meanwhile, a team hides behind the bushes. Zhang asks who's there. A boy steps forward, saying they're allies from Class 10 of the North Branch and asks if they're from the South Branch. Qinfeng laughs, saying he feels a sense of camaraderie with him. Zhang asks what they're doing there. The boy explains they just arrived but saw people shooting laser weapons, so they hid. He mentions seeing 2 people running into the building and asks if they're with them. Qinfeng confirms, saying the class representative and his girlfriend went to teach those guys a lesson. The boy is outraged that they went to face a team armed with laser weapons, but then they hear a scream and see a sniper falling from the building. Jang proudly declares that Class 10 is strong. The sniper tries to hit Luo, but she dodges and closes in. The sniper panics, wondering why he can't hit her. Luo strikes him, sending him flying with her attack. The protagonist observes and remarks that she managed to take down another one. Then another sniper shoots at his leg again. He dodges, thinking there are so many of them that he can't handle it if they all fire at the same time. He finds himself surrounded by multiple snipers and notices they look well-equipped and trained. Suspecting they might be there to claim a bounty on him, he comes up with an idea. He begins attacking with his abilities, causing a massive impact. The snipers, shaken from above, are confused, asking what's happening. Lin approaches and declares that they don't call him the Lightning King for nothing. Using his Painform Fury ability, he knocks them all down to the ground, creating a tremendous impact. People watch and are impressed by the protagonist's strength. The sniper begs for his life and offers all the heterocrystals in his bag as a trade. Shu, without hesitation, eliminates him, stating that the crystals would be his either way. He notices the sniper's phone fallen on the ground and realizes they were there for the hunter site reward. Searching through the backpack, he finds 3 grade 4 crystals and 10 grade 3 crystals. He approaches Luo, asking if she has finished cleaning up. She confirms and shows the bag she managed to collect, containing 2 grade 5 crystals and several of grade 4 and grade 3. He remarks that they now have 8 grade 5 crystals and will surely avoid finishing in last place. Jang approaches, asking if he's okay. Lin responds affirmatively, adding that his main concern now is to find more grade 5 crystals. Jang then asks about the boys nearby. Lin explains they are from Class 10 of the Northern Branch. The protagonist finds it a coincidence since he is also from Class 10. The boy proposes a trade, to which Shu inquires about the kind of deal he is offering. The boy says he wants to exchange crystals for important information. When asked what kind of information is worth the crystals, the boy reveals that he knows the location of a dimensional rift and offers to disclose it in exchange for 2 grade 5 crystals. Lin comments that this is valuable information since dimensional organisms or precious treasures could be found there, but wonders how they can trust him. The boy explains that he will hand over his student card, and once they verify the rift is real, they can return it to him. He also acknowledges that they are stronger and do not want to end up in last place during the test. The protagonist, recognizing their determination, agrees and asks if the boy is the class representative. He confirms. Shu decides to keep the boy's card and offers 3 grade 5 crystals. The boy is indignant, but hands over the card. Lin reassures him, sharing that, as a fellow Class 10 member, he knows what it's like to be underestimated. He encourages the boy to lead his class and grow stronger together. Moved, the boy thanks him and shares the coordinates. As they walk away with the crystals, Zhang asks if they can trust the boy. Lin replies that he believes in their determination and suspects they wouldn't lie, especially since their willingness to grow stronger speaks volumes. He suggests they head to the dimensional rift to uncover its treasures. When they arrive at the coordinates, the protagonist notes that the dimensional rift should be there. Zhang points out the lack of evolved beasts and wonders if there could be a powerful dimensional monster nearby. The protagonist thinks it's possible. Luo asks if he can sense anything, and he confirms feeling a dense energy source typical of dimensional rifts. They discover the rift in the middle of an abandoned shopping mall and caution everyone to proceed carefully. Upon entering, they encounter numerous spider webs. As they continue, Lei remarks it feels like they've entered an insect nest. Suddenly, something grabs one team member's arm. Startled, Jiang attacks but realizes it's just a corpse. Jiang scolds him for overreacting. Lei then observes the corpse moving as if something is under its skin. A beetle emerges, and they notice several other corpses. Jiang wonders if all of them have insects inside. Lin deduces they are likely parasites, cautioning the group not to step on the bodies and noting that they probably yield little experience points. They proceed further, as Lei complains about the grotesque scene. Shu reflects that if there are insect larvae, there must also be an adult insect nearby. He speculates that the presence of the blue-winged beetle could explain the absence of other animals. Looking up, they finally see the dimensional rift. Zhang comments it's his first time seeing one. Lin notices something unusual and spots a grade 6 blue-winged beetle. Although it looks intimidating, it is asleep and hasn't noticed them. Lin suggests they move quietly, finish their investigation, and leave quickly to avoid unnecessary risks. Zhang calls the team over to examine a stone, wondering if it fell from the dimensional rift. He taps it with his sword and notes that it must be some sort of extremely hard metal. The protagonist, using his flame spear, comments that it's also heat-resistant and speculates that if they take it back for forging, it could be made into a weapon. Zhang asks if the rift only dropped a few stones. Xu points to another area and suggests they check it out, saying his fire attribute energy senses something there. Zhang asks why it suddenly got so hot. Xu replies that there's something in the area. They come across something resembling a burning plant. Luo identifies it as a crimson lotus flame. Xu asks what that is. She explains that it's a rare energy cluster, similar to a common flame lotus, but with energy far superior to the typical crystal. Xu wonders if he can absorb it, feeling a massive surge of energy from it. Luo warns him not to, explaining that the energy is too strong and violent, potentially reducing him to ashes. Lin asks if they can harvest it, and suggests taking it back to figure out a way to absorb it gradually. Luo agrees but notes they need special tools for the job. The protagonist laments that without the tools, their trip might have been for nothing, and he worries that someone else might arrive and take it before they do. At that moment, a voice announces they've found something. The team realizes someone else has arrived and questions how they discovered the location. Zhang identifies them as members of Class 2 from the northern branch. A red-haired boy calls over a friend and instructs him to prepare the equipment to transport the item. Xu notices they've indeed brought tools and remarks that they arrived first. The red-haired boy, with a defiant tone, points out the tools and insinuates that even if they handed over the flame, they could easily take it back. He mocks them, calling them the trash of Class 10 from the southern branch, and offers them a few Grade 4 crystals so they don't finish last in the test. Lin retorts, accusing him of daylight robbery and asking if he expects them to settle for that. The red-haired boy challenges him, asking what he plans to do about it. Luo steps forward, declaring that they'll eliminate them. The red-haired boy blocks her attack and sarcastically notes how viciously they're starting the fight. He commands his team to attack. Zhang vows to take them down. The red-haired boy fights Luo, and despite her strength, questions why someone as capable as her is hanging around with Class 10. Luo strikes him, knocking him down. The red-haired boy looks at the protagonist and realizes he's also strong, regretting underestimating them. He decides that even if they manage to defeat the team, they won't emerge unscathed. He orders Ming to hold off Molly's opponent so they can harvest the crimson lotus flame. Ming complies, rushing toward the flame. Xu warns him not to touch it, suspecting that the blue-winged beetle on the ceiling is guarding it and will attack anyone who takes it. Ming dismisses the warning, asking why else they would be there if not for the crimson lotus flame. Molly, while fiddling with the flame, gloats about how rich they'll be once they have it. He successfully harvests it and rejoices. Lin notes that this isn't good as the blue-winged beetle wakes up. Molly calls out to his representative, announcing his success, but the beetle attacks and kills him instantly. The team is horrified, realizing that the beetle took out a Grade 4 warrior in a single strike. More beetles begin to swarm. The red-haired boy panics, acknowledging that they can't win even if they combine their forces. He orders his team to retreat, abandoning the flame, and urges them to flee quickly. The protagonist tells his team to retreat as well, deeming the area too dangerous. However, as they attempt to leave, they find their path blocked by numerous stones. The red-haired boy, still fleeing, reveals that they deliberately destroyed the entrance to trap them, saying he'll leave them as insect food. Zhang realizes they've blown up the exit, cutting off their escape route. Lei asks what they should do. Xu assesses the situation and volunteers to lure the beetles away while the rest of the team finds another way out. The team expresses concern, but Xu jumps into action, sprinting toward the equipment holding the flame. He grabs it and dashes away, reasoning that since the beetles are guarding the flame, he'll use it to draw them away. As they run, the beetles chase after them, but Xu encounters another beetle blocking his path. In the chaos, the tool opens, causing the lotus flame to fall and touch his body, setting him ablaze. The others rush to his side, concerned for his safety. Lin feels his body absorbing the energy from the lotus, but the process is too slow, and he fears his body will explode before completing the absorption. His body begins to burn intensely. Luo quickly attacks the beetle and asks if he's okay. The protagonist replies that it's unbearably hot and that he feels like he's going to explode. Luo approaches and hugs him, explaining that her energy source has an ice attribute that can help suppress the flames. Those around them watch anxiously. Luo channels her ice power and urges him to hurry and absorb the lotus flame's energy. Xu notices that it's working. Under her suppression, the absorption process accelerates. Zhang observes Luo's bravery, thinking how she ignored the flames and risked her life to save him. He vows not to let her be the only one willing to make sacrifices for the protagonist, remembering how many times the protagonist has saved his life. Determined, she begins attacking the beetles, resolved to buy him more time even at the cost of her own life. The beetles close in on her, Ping watches and asks what Luo is doing. Chenfeng explains that she's drawing the beetle's attention to give the class representative time. He insists they need to help her, as she won't last long alone. Ping hesitates, pointing out that the beetles are all rank 6. Chenfeng acknowledges the risk but argues that it's necessary. Meanwhile, the protagonist notices the absorption is almost complete, but the flame's energy is destroying his flesh, organs, and bones. His system continuously repairs his body, and his strength grows exponentially. As the process concludes, he realizes he's gained over 300 million experience points and instructs the system to allocate all points to strength. He checks on Luo, who responds weakly, saying she's exhausted much of her energy source. Xu advises her to drink a supplement to recover her stamina and quickly absorb more energy, promising to help the others. Luo protests that he can't handle it alone. Lin observes the others struggling to distract the beetles and realizes that, even with the lotus flame's power, the violent energy still threatens to overwhelm him. Zhang collapses to the ground and tries to crawl away. Suddenly, the protagonist arrives and attacks the beetles. He asks if she's okay. Zhang confirms she is and asks about him. He reassures her and tells her to fall back, vowing to handle the beetles. Internally, he struggles with the lotus flame's frenetic and violent energy, finding it hard to control. The others shout for him to be careful. Xu's aura becomes terrifying as he focuses. He senses that the flame possesses enough power to burn even a star. He activates his stellar nullification ability, attacking the beetles and annihilating them in one strike. Lin is elated, having gained over 10 million experience points, an increase of about 1 million. The others are left speechless, astonished that he eliminated 2 rank 6 monsters with a single blow. The protagonist continues his assault, inspired by a sudden flash of insight. He uses the furious energy of the lotus flame to create his own move, akin to a secret technique that might be impossible to replicate. He names it Phoenix's Wrath and unleashes a series of fiery attacks, causing an explosion. He observes that, despite his increased internal energy, he still can't completely burn the beetles but can target their wings to deprive them of their aerial advantage. He presses on, realizing that after using 2 techniques, the violent energy within him has significantly calmed. With his spear, he notes the beetle's shells are exceptionally tough. The flames cause damage, but the black spine on his spear only created a small hole. Deciding to inflict as many holes as possible, he conserves his energy while using techniques like Phoenix's Wrath and Stormflower. Chenfeng comments on how powerful the class representative is, marveling that he's fighting multiple rank 6 monsters alone. Ping adds that this is the kind of strength a level 4 warrior should possess. Zhang observes that the protagonist's condition is strange. He isn't defending himself, only attacking viciously, full of adrenaline, and the energy he's using doesn't seem to come from his own source. Luo approaches and explains that it's the power of the lotus flame, and if he doesn't expel the energy through fighting, his body could explode. Zhang asks what they should do, and Luo says they'll discuss it after finishing off the dimensional monsters. She grabs her sword and moves to help him, freezing a beetle. Xiu follows up, attacking and eliminating the beetle, commenting that he pierced through it. Luo notes that the shell becomes fragile after being burned and frozen, and Xiu replies that he noticed. He suggests it's time for the husband and wife duo to combine powers and exterminate them. Luo smacks him on the head, warning that if he talks nonsense again, she'll tear his mouth apart. Chenfeng remarks that the class representative is so cool he's even having a lover's spat at a time like this. The protagonist continues attacking with his Phoenix's Wrath ability, burning the beetle, while Luo freezes it. Xu then eliminates the beetle, but numerous larvae begin to swarm. He realizes the beetle was female and warns everyone to be cautious. Zhang states they'll handle the smaller ones while he and Luo focus on the larger ones. They move in, attacking the beetle larvae. Lin notices a beetle approaching Ping and yells for him to watch out. Ping panics, but the protagonist throws his spear, striking the beetle. Ping shouts at him to be careful and asks if he's really abandoning his spear. Xu responds that a warrior never abandons his weapon, and if the beetle dares to bite the black spine, it should be ready to lose its mouth. Flames ignite inside the beetle's mouth, defeating it. Xu remarks that he didn't expect it to work but decides to burn them all from the inside since their shells are too tough. He charges forward, noting 3 more adult beetles. After some time, he presents the fallen beetles on the ground. Zhang feels relieved that they've eliminated all of them, and comments that somehow they survived fighting rank 6 beetles. Lei attributes their success to the class representative. Lin asks why everyone is sitting so far from him, saying he won't eat them. Chenfeng replies that he's like a furnace, and they feel like they'll get burned if they get too close. The protagonist drinks a supplement, retorting that no one complained while he was saving them. As he exhales, Smoke escapes his mouth. Luo tells him to stop wasting the supplement and assures him she'll continue using her ice magic to suppress the lotus flame. She declares that they've rested enough and tells everyone to move on. Xiu suggests heading to the city center, where he needs to face strong opponents. They proceed cautiously, noticing the mist around them and wondering why it's there. Lin warns them to stay alert, as evolved beasts might be hiding nearby. Suddenly, something coils around Zhang's leg. Confused, she calls for help. The protagonist grabs her hand and cuts the creature binding her, asking if she's okay. She confirms she is and asks what it was. Xiu notices numerous zombies approaching, identifying them as rank 4 tentacle zombies. Lin instructs everyone to stay together. Using his phoenix's wrath, he spreads flames, observing that there are far more zombies than expected. He asks Luo how she's doing, but realizes she isn't there. Calling out to the others, he notes that something is wrong with the mist. They've all been separated without noticing, and being alone puts them in danger. He unleashes flames in all directions, eliminating the surrounding zombies. Checking his device, he finds there's no signal, and even with a map he can't pinpoint his location. Determined, he sets out to find the others. While advancing, he hears an explosion and demands to know who's there. The red-haired boy appears, taunting him about their reunion and saying he didn't expect him to survive the dimensional monsters. The protagonist replies, calling him a Class 2 mutt from the northern branch, and adds that he was about to hunt them down for revenge, but their encounter saved him the trouble. The red-haired boy asks why the protagonist is alone, wondering if his friends were eliminated, lamenting that he remembers the 3 beauties in his group. Xiu responds that everyone is fine, just separated in the mist, and that he eliminated the monsters and obtained several grade 6 crystals. The red-haired boy mocks him, asking if he expects him to believe that trash like him could defeat such monsters. But as he observes the aura around the protagonist, he notices the lotus flame and exclaims that he devoured it. Confused, he asks how the protagonist is still alive, as he should have exploded. Lin responds not to judge him by his trash standards and asks what a mere lotus flame could do to him. The red-haired boy, irritated, says he feels the protagonist hasn't fully absorbed the power and wonders how someone so inferior managed to absorb energy so quickly. He declares that if he eliminates him now, he can harvest the remaining energy in his body. The protagonist replies that he defeated grade 6 dimensional monsters and asks if the red-haired boy really thinks he can win. Confident in his numbers, the red-haired boy orders his team to attack. As they advance, one of them comments on how incredibly fast the protagonist is. A bald man challenges him, unleashing the mountain attack, and Xiu responds with, "Storm flower." Surprised, the bald man admits his strength, but Lin retorts that there's more to come and attacks with the 100 birds skill. The bald man tries to counter but is sent flying, leaving the onlookers shocked that he was defeated in just 2 moves. His body is charred, and the red-haired boy acknowledges the power of the flame, asking how much the protagonist absorbed to make his skills so powerful. He calls for Senior Kodachi, who approaches, remarking how shameful it is for an entire group to struggle against one person. The protagonist asks if they are 4th-year students and if they are also participating in the test. Kodachi confirms but explains that their task is to hunt him. Xiu remarks that the school forum often talks about freshmen being eliminated by evolved beasts, but never imagined it was actually caused by these old-timers. The senior explains that this time of year is ideal for hunting, as the trial is dangerous, and no one will suspect the freshmen were eliminated by them, helping the school get rid of losers. Lin asks if the mist is his doing. Kodachi denies it, explaining that it's the work of a high-level evolved beast sleeping nearby, creating the perfect hunting ground. The protagonist calls it ridiculous for Class 2 of the Northern Branch to associate with this kind of trash, declaring that he will personally help the school get rid of them. The red-haired boy, furious, orders them to eliminate him painfully. The senior responds that he'll fulfill that wish. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Ping wonders where everyone is and senses something behind him. Thinking it's a tentacle zombie, he turns and attacks, but his sword is blocked. Zhang asks if he's trying to eliminate her, and Ping replies that she scared him, thinking she was a zombie, as he's been fighting many, and they keep coming. Zhang asks if he's alone, and if he's seen Luo or the class representative, but he hasn't. Zhang laments that without reception, they're running blind. Qinfeng suggests that everyone stick together, as they can't separate again. Back at Xiu's battle, he continues attacking with 100 birds, sending enemies flying, followed by a fiery strike. The senior remarks on how he managed to eliminate 2 people even with everyone present and asks if he's really a 4th-year student, as he's incredibly strong. The red-haired boy confirms he's grade 4 but attributes his powerful fire energy to the lotus flame. Kodachi suggests that if they eliminate him now, they can absorb the undigested energy. Meanwhile, one of their allies, engulfed in flames, screams for help as he burns. The senior observes that the protagonist is using combat to expel the lotus flame's energy and that they're only aiding him. He suggests waiting, as his body won't withstand it, and when he's eliminated, they can absorb the leaking energy. Lin realizes they've figured out his condition and knows he needs to end this quickly before his body collapses, and then find Luo to help suppress the energy with ice. The senior accuses the protagonist of bluffing and orders an attack, but Luo arrives to suppress the energy. Shu attacks the senior with his spear while feeling the energy being suppressed by her presence. He jokes about feeling like a cornered weasel. Luo responds that he's no hero, just weak, to which the protagonist teases that she always finds a way to belittle him. Kodachi notices Luo and remarks that his companion has arrived and that she's a real beauty. The red-haired boy comments that this is bad since her energy source can suppress the flame. The senior silences him, observing that Luo's icy demeanor matches her ice attribute, and sarcastically claims he's a romantic person, asking to melt her frozen heart. He then orders everyone to eliminate them. One of the allies attacks Luo, but she easily defends herself. The senior, watching her, realizes she's much stronger than that opponent and sees her quickly defeat and eliminate the ally. Calling the fallen ally an idiot, he warns the group that she's at least at the peak of the 4th grade and extremely powerful. He commands everyone to focus on eliminating her first, or they'll all be defeated. They rush toward her, but a spear flies in, knocking an attacker away and protecting her. Shu and Luo stand back to back, ready for the onslaught. Kodachi observes them and finds their teamwork remarkable, realizing Luo intentionally left an opening to draw enemies toward Shu. He hadn't expected their coordination to be this good. Lin leaps forward, announcing that he'll use Kodachi to test a new skill he just learned. He unleashes his golden technique, Milky Descent, causing a massive explosion. The senior, stunned, asks how a golden skill can have such destructive power. The protagonist replies that it's his turn, and thinks to himself that no one knew the power of the lotus flame would amplify the Milky Way descent so much. He follows up with a strengthening strike and Phoenix's wrath. The senior, overwhelmed by the sudden surge in power, panics and apologizes to the red-haired boy, using him as a shield against the attack. Meanwhile, Luo eliminates another ally, and the senior realizes they're doomed, unable to win even with superior numbers. Shu approaches the senior, asking if he still believes he can defeat him, and strikes with his flaming claw. Mocking the senior, he offers him a chance to use the lotus flame's energy, taunting him for not taking it. The senior screams that he's part of the Lunar Wing Legion and warns that if he's eliminated, everyone there will be hunted down. Lin asks what that is, saying he's never heard of it. Kodachi, enraged, curses, cuts off his own arm, and flees. The protagonist, holding the severed arm, comments on how quickly he escaped, but adds that perhaps he's not entirely a coward since he had the courage to amputate his own limb. He approaches Luo and asks if she's heard of the Lunar Wing Legion. She explains that it's the strongest mercenary group in the world, specializing in missions like eliminating targets and attacking small nations. Shu, intrigued, asks how they manage to attack nations and how strong they are. Luo clarifies that the group isn't exceptionally strong, but is led by a level 9 warrior and is infamous for their relentless pursuit of vengeance when one of their members is killed, hunting down the perpetrator until they're dead. She recounts a case of a small African nation that killed a Legion member and was destroyed within a week. Lin, alarmed, exclaims that they've now offended a level 9 warrior. He asks why Luo seems so calm, given the dire situation. Luo confidently responds that if the Legion dares to come, they'll be eliminated. The protagonist questions her courage to fight a grade 9 warrior. Luo replies that with his current condition, he'll be dead before the Legion even arrives, as the Lotus Flame's power has exceeded expectations, and her ice energy can't suppress it for long. Shu asks what they should do, and she suggests finding an evolved beast with water or ice attributes, whose crystal could help suppress the energy. Lin recalls hearing that the mist was caused by a high-level evolved beast, and reasons that if it can create mist, it's likely water or ice type. Luo agrees, suggesting they head toward the mist to search for the beast. The protagonist warns them to be cautious as something is approaching. They encounter a grade 5 red-eyed hound. He advises Luo to be careful, noting that these are dangerous beasts, and they move to attack. Meanwhile, a man near a dirigible, injured and frustrated, remarks that he didn't expect the boy to be so strong. With his arm wounded, he decides to attach a mechanical arm and throws a bomb in their direction, declaring it a gift to eliminate them all once the target awakens. The explosion creates a loud noise, drawing Xue's attention. He senses something unusual and wonders what might be under attack in the mist. Another explosion occurs, followed by smoke. A massive blue bird with an enormous beak, A grade 8 beast emerges, letting out a deafening sound. Lin questions if such a powerful evolved beast could really be in this area. Luo observes that the mist has dissipated and deduces that the bird was releasing the mist while it slept, and someone deliberately attacked it to wake it up. She notes that the beast's heterocrystal is perfect, and Lin asks if she's considering eliminating it. The students observe the bird, and a voice asks its grade. Joe answers that it's grade 8, far beyond what they can handle. He adds that he's already spread the news in the hunters group, so someone will arrive soon to deal with it. The bird continues emitting intense sounds. Luo notices the presence of numerous zombies and evolved beasts, suggesting they retreat. They run into a building and watch the beasts from the rooftop. Xu assesses the situation, doubting that anyone near the mist's center could have survived, worrying about the rest of the group and wondering if they're okay. They see several dirigibles approaching. Luo notes that they must be here to hunt the bird. A team descends from one of the dirigibles and encounters the students, explaining that the academy is using the area as a training ground for freshmen and that the news of the ice bird awakening was spread by a student. However, it seems the situation is spiraling out of control. Lin questions whether the man in the group is a grade 7 warrior, realizing he can't analyze him. The old man assures him there's no need to fear, as his goal is the bird and not the students. He asks how long it's been since the bird appeared and whether anyone has fought it. The protagonist explains that the bird was sleeping and was awakened by an attack from a jet. The old man, surprised, asks if someone deliberately woke it up and then orders his team to attack together. Xu observes the large team and comments on their numbers. The bird lets out another deafening screech. The old man commands the laser cannon to fire, and the attack hits the bird. Lin is astonished to see the military's K-17 laser cannon being deployed. A massive explosion follows, and the old man declares the bird gravely wounded and orders its elimination. The protagonist doubts that a grade 8 beast could be taken down so easily. Luo comments that only Alliance troops can mobilize the K-17 laser cannon, describing them as a group that relies on technology. The bird, seemingly unfazed, lets out another loud cry, causing the hunters to struggle to remain standing. The old man grows irritated, accusing the beast of feigning weakness, and orders the attacks to continue. The cannon fires again, emitting powerful rays that cause more explosions. Luo remarks that the Alliance's weapons have been destroyed, and that the real battle begins now. The protagonist asks if there are other warriors besides the Alliance troops present. A man approaches, declaring that this is their opportunity as he prepares to attack. Others leap into action with tools in hand, while one of the hunters instructs the group to keep attacking, stating that even the bird's feathers will fetch a fortune. The bird reacts, increasing its speed and striking down one of the men with a massive impact. Xu comments on the destructive power of the grade 8 evolved beast. Luo explains that this will be a prolonged battle, as defeating such a strong beast will take at least 3 days. Another explosion occurs, and the protagonist asks if it will really take that long. Luo confirms, explaining that when she was 10 years old, she watched her family fight a grade 9 golden flame terrestrial beast, and the battle lasted a week. Lin is impressed that she witnessed a grade 9 beast fight at such a young age, but she clarifies that she only watched to gain experience. The protagonist reflects on how hundreds of warriors are struggling against a grade 8 beast, while her family defeated a grade 9 beast with a child present, concluding that she must be incredibly wealthy. After a long time, Xiu yawns while still observing the battle. He remarks that the soldiers keep attacking the bird, even though it's already weakened. Lin sarcastically comments that even an idiot can see the bird is out of strength. The bird screeches again, and the protagonist notices more Alliance troops arriving with even better equipment. They continue attacking, causing another explosion. Xu wonders why, even with advanced technology and skilled warriors, they still haven't defeated the bird. Luo explains that those who attack first become the target, and they are waiting for the hidden parties to make their move first. The bird falls, causing a massive impact, and the men cheer in triumph as they approach to collect the crystal. One man declares that, as per the agreement, he will take the crystal and materials from the bird, saying they're worth 10 years of work. Meanwhile, another man rushes in, accusing them of stealing the crystal and questioning what right they have to take it. The first man, irritated, asks what he plans to do about it and eliminates him with a single strike. Soon after, dirigibles appear, and the occupants announce that anyone who touches Alliance property will be eliminated. The man challenges them, ordering the cannon to fire again. A massive explosion follows, and he attacks with his skill, demanding how they dared to try to steal his crystal. He orders his team to join the attack. The protagonist observes and comments that the fight has begun among them. Luo warns him to be ready to leave quickly. Then he hears someone calling for the class representative. Turning around, he sees his team and remarks how good it is to see them safe. Ping says he was searching for him in the mist, but but accidentally entered the giant bird's territory and was almost killed. Xiu expresses relief that they're safe and assumes the other students must have been evacuated, suggesting they do the same. Zhang asks why he and Luo haven't evacuated yet. Lin responds that they will, but they need to stay for now. Zhang asks if they're planning to steal the grade 8 crystal, reminding them that the hunters are experts from grades 6 and 7. Luo explains that they need the crystal because, without it, the representative won't survive to return to the academy, as the ice crystal can harmonize with the lotus flame. Lei comments that he thought the representative had already absorbed all the flame's power, but Ping responds that he used that power to save them, and that they didn't do anything to help him. The protagonist tells them to evacuate and not distract him from the task of snatching prey from the tiger's mouth. Lei asks him to be careful. Soon, they come across destroyed dirigibles and defeated people. One man is exhausted, wielding an attack tool. Zhou remarks that it's almost time to act, showing a special grenade and explaining that it's made with the latest technology, a paralyzing smoke grenade that covers the area for 3 seconds. He states that, while ineffective against high-level warriors, 1 second is enough. Zhou leaps from a building and tells the others to leave, declaring that he will take the grade 8 crystal. The man realizes something is wrong as Smoke approaches and panics when he finds himself unable to move. Luo comments that now is the time. The protagonist notices the mist and asks how they'll locate the crystal. She responds that the pet Raleigh can help. Xiu finds the idea great and tells the pet this is its chance. They jump to the ground, locate the crystal, and grab it. The protagonist, excited, remarks how thrilling it is to get it. Luo urges him to leave. Meanwhile, Zhou searches below and asks if someone got there faster. The furious young man shouts and curses Zhou, accusing him of stealing his crystal and demanding its return. Zhou responds by throwing another bomb but quickly realizes he's been tricked. The man yells again, enraged, promising he won't forgive him. Elsewhere, the protagonist remarks that it seems no one is chasing them, thanks to the man who launched the bomb. He says they got the crystal easily, but, upon checking the bag, finds an egg and is startled. Luo asks if he's blind and questions how he managed to take the bird's egg instead. Xiu insists he was sure he grabbed the crystal and asks what the egg is for. Luo explains it's the egg of a grade 8 beast and that there's a chance it could hatch, allowing them to train the bird as a mount. Lin imagines himself riding the bird and comments how cool it would be. Luo tosses the crystal to him, telling him to absorb it. The protagonist asks when she grabbed the crystal since he didn't even notice. She tells him to stop talking nonsense and absorb it already. Meanwhile, Zhou, irritated, remarks that someone has stolen the crystal. A student doubts it, but Zhou explains that it will be easy to find the culprit. He pulls out the latest crystal detector from his bag, capable of locating crystals inside beasts, or extracted ones. He points out the dense red dots indicating nearby crystals, and identifies the grade 8 crystal, still close by. He quickly runs off. Meanwhile, the protagonist is surrounded by flames and ice, thinking that the dual attributes are about to overwhelm him. However, the lotus flame is merging with the ice crystal's energy, accelerating his absorption. A notification appears, indicating that he has leveled up, leaving him thrilled. Luo senses something amiss and notices zombies approaching. She comments that since the ice crystal was extracted and the bird defeated, the zombies have started to return. She tells him to keep absorbing the crystal while she deals with the zombies. After a while, Luo eliminates all the zombies but is exhausted. She observes that he's still absorbing the crystal and thinks that, while she doesn't know how much he's absorbed, the lotus flame's energy seems stabilized. Suddenly, a voice accuses them of being the thieves who stole the grade 8 crystal. Luo is startled to see Zhou, who states that, considering the good relations between their families, he'll let them go if they return the crystal. Another student, however, shouts, revealing that the boy is absorbing the crystal. Zhou, furious, asks how he dares to absorb his crystal and orders Xiao Qi to attack and retrieve it. Luo blocks Xiao Qi, declaring that anyone who touches the boy will be eliminated. Zhou attempts to strike her, screaming that the crystal is his. Xiao Qi remarks that trash like him wouldn't be able to absorb the crystal. They both advance, but their hands are burned and frozen. Lin asks if they think they're qualified to take something from him. Both cry out in pain as they're repelled. The protagonist grabs his spear, unleashing intense flames to attack the opponents. Xiao Qi comments on the extreme heat of the flames. Zhu uses his ice-type Stormflower skill, causing cracks in the rocks, and takes the opportunity to pull Luo and escape the area. After some time, they stop to recover, realizing they've gotten away. Zhou, frustrated, questions why the crystal isn't appearing on the map, realizing it's due to the absorption. Xiao Qi asks what they should do. Zhou throws the locator to the ground and storms off, visibly enraged. Elsewhere, inside a house, Lin is finishing absorbing the crystal. He realizes the absorption has given him enough experience to level up 3 times and instructs the system to allocate the points to strength. Soon he receives a notification informing him that he's now a grade 5 warrior. He reflects that his combat stats have finally surpassed 5,000 and that he can now unlock stage 2 of his genetic lock. He requests the system to update his title to grade 5 warrior, even though it reduces his constitution by 50 points, reasoning that damage reduction could save his life. Luo approaches, asking if he's completed the absorption. Surprised, she remarks that a normal person would take at least 3 days and 3 nights to absorb a grade 8 crystal, yet he managed it in just 1. Xu says it's due to his natural talent. Luo, after confirming that he has completed the absorption, calls him, saying it's the last day. They begin walking, and Lin asks if she could give him a small compliment since he's putting in so much effort. As they approach a location, on the other side, the rest of the team encounters their opponents. The protagonist arrives and asks what happened. Zhang, looking relieved to see him, says those guys stole their crystals. A boy notices him and asks if he's the one from Class 10 of the Southern Branch who took first place in the battle tower. He introduces himself as Hang, and the girl beside him as Tian. Xu comments that he remembers now, as Hang was originally ranked 2nd and Tian 3rd, but both are now below Lin. Hang says Lin only managed to take first place by luck, and challenges him to a match right then and there. He proposes that if Lin wins, he'll return the crystals, but if Lin loses, all his crystals will belong to them. Lin rejects the offer, saying he has nothing to gain and asking if Hang thinks he's an idiot, as losing would mean handing over all his crystals. He states that if Hang refuses, he'll take his crystals by force after defeating him. Hang asks if Lin thinks he's qualified to defeat him and moves to attack. The protagonist, noticing that Hang also wields a spear, comments that it has piqued his interest. Meanwhile, Tian taunts Luo, saying she's heard Luo is from the Southern Branch and questioning why she volunteered for Class 10, asking if she's eager to be friends with trash. Luo, serious, replies that if Tian keeps provoking her, all that awaits her is elimination. Hang remarks that he remembers Lin as a grade 4 warrior in the battle tower, but now he's grade 5. Xu asks what's wrong and comments that Lin is improving quickly, telling Hang not to compare him to trash like himself. Hang attacks with the golden skill Earth Destroyer, causing a massive impact and sending Lin flying. Hang remarks that even though both are grade 5 warriors, the disparity in power is immense. Lin, recovering, asks if that's Hang's true strength, saying he gave him a chance but that he's truly worthless. He approaches and declares that it's now his turn, attacking with his skill. Hang, shocked, asks how Lin can land so many strikes in a single second. Wounded by the spear, Hang becomes furious, asking how that trash from Class 10 dares to injure him and promising to send him flying. Hang uses Earth Destroyer again, but the protagonist counters with Storm Flowers. Hang, confident, comments that the skill won't work on him twice. Xu, smiling, replies that he'll use a different skill, launching Storm Flowers with an ice attribute. Hang, confused, realizes that Xu isn't just a fire user and wonders how he's managed to hide his ice attribute all this time.
If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and like the video. Thank you.